Live tonight from the Arizona desert, we go sim racing for the second time of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series season as we leave some of the chaos and unpredictability that Daytona always brings behind us and trade it out tonight for some good old-fashioned short track racing. Before we get to tonight's Phoenix 156, we'll take a step back 3 weeks ago and recap our last time out with a look at this week's iRacing race recap from the season opener at Daytona International Speedway. Field going to be in the hands of the 37 Chris Overland. He'll take the green flag and kick off the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series as we're racing from Daytona. And everybody seems to be in agreement that they're not letting those, the energetic nature of this first race of the season get to them. Everybody single file with the exception of those 3 cars you're seeing on the outside of the racetrack as they head into turn number 1. A lot of the time, the fact that it's a season opener and the fact that you're racing at Daytona, it clouds your judgment a little bit. You don't make the smartest or soundest moves. So far, so good. We've got plenty of time for things to get crazy. As a challenge for the outside, and it is going to happen. The 11 car tucks down in line, and Jimmy Mullis going to go to the race lead at lap 15. First lead change tonight. That 6 of Michael Conti has been in this thing throughout the night and runs third up on the outside of the racetrack. He hasn't been as physically aggressive, if that's a good way to put it. But look at the 14 car of Ottinger. Not sitting around. That was not a lane. He made one. Crosses up the 3 Alusa, and the defending series champions got a one-way ticket to the back of the pack up top. The 14 Machine race leader is already leaving the box. Nick Ottinger talking about the amount of fuel you need. Fuel only. Tight with the 7 coming out. They're all going to leave relatively together. That 6 of Conti, though, going to lose touch because he comes out of that number 4 pit stall. That's good for yellow flag pit stops. Not very good conditions under green. So Ottinger probably going to work with the 7 of Schoenberg. No tires. Fuel only. At 22, Orion Lowe dropping back on the outside of the racetrack. This group had been making up time. We got a spinner towards the front. The 10 of Casey Kerwin is sideways, and he's going to get tagged.
He was the 32 car of Kenny Humpy that he just got into. So your 2014 winner of this race, he gets taken out on a late race incident, and this is going to change everything. If everyone's going to be stacked up, Nick Ottinger is going to be on the bottom. Schoenberg, I believe, is going to be the driver who leads that upper groove. And we have a inside of 10 laps to go restart here at Daytona. Everything just got thrown up into the air.
Still single file behind him. At this point, next car to the start-finish line wins this race. This white flag has flown from Daytona. Does the 7 go back? Is he going to make a move up top? Or does the outside line come into play? How wide can Nick Ottinger make the number 14 Toyota? Spinning in the back, no caution. We're going to stay green. It's a big wreck from 15th on back. Everybody else in front unaffected. As the race for the lead continues down the back to turn number 3. Still no move. Ottinger on the inside. Now here comes Challenger up top. The 24 Leahy, the 34 coming with him. And they've got a lot of speed coming through the corner. Here we come. Final time at corner number 4. Schoenberg to the outside. Ottinger throws the block, and he will keep him behind him. Nick Ottinger wins the season opener from Daytona. Blocked him high, blocked him low. Schoenberg gave it everything he had as they wrecked behind him, but Nick Ottinger was able to defend for the season opener win from Daytona.
Oh, that was late.
Hey guys! This week, the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah.
The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit NASCAR.com/fantasy and build your team today.
The road to $10,000 rolls through the winding roads of the Grand Canyon State, where tonight we say let's go racing from the ISM Raceway. For the second race of this 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. On RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, and it is from high atop the broadcast booth that we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to tonight's Phoenix 156, round 2 of 18 on the 2018 campaign. Alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth in the RaceSpot booth, with Hugo Louise downstairs pushing the buttons and bringing us to you this evening. And Tim, happy to have you with us for this week as we kind of get into what is now considered the actual start of the season. Daytona, always unpredictable and chaotic. I think if you got out of 3 weeks ago with points, you're happy, but I think a real march towards a championship starts right here tonight.
Yeah, you said it, Evan. Happy to be back here on RaceSpot and on the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. When you look at Phoenix is one of those races where you really get down to business. A lot of these teams, after the new build, anticipating this race. But a lot of those teams that we saw near the front of the field 3 weeks ago, Evan, they did perform here at Phoenix, at least in qualifying. We'll see what happens when we go racing at ISM Raceway.
And obviously a very small sample size as we come into tonight, but Randy, there is a championship on the line, and Nick Ottinger, courtesy of the win from Daytona International Speedway, which was 3 weeks ago. Again, I think from this point on to the end of the season, it is only going to be 1 week off in between races, but we had an extra week off. Nick Ottinger at the top of the pile with the win. The likes of Brian Schoenberg, Christian Challenger, Michael Conti, Keegan Leahy, the drivers inside of the top five. Again, essentially the points, a perfect reflection of the finishing results, but I think that everybody coming into a racetrack like Phoenix, which is not on the same level of unpredictability as Daytona, but anytime you get to a racetrack at or below 1 mile in length, and ISM falls into that category here tonight, you have to be a little bit nervous about what could happen. So those drivers, I think, feel a little bit better knowing that they have something to pad them if they find some issues tonight, because this racetrack is known to be rough and tough.
First couple weeks of this championship, very tough indeed, Evan, starting with Daytona, like you said, and then coming here to the deserts of Arizona. At Phoenix, like you said, 1 mile or less, things get a little bit hectic. Honestly, Phoenix might be one of the safer tracks in that sort of 1 mile and under category, but still, there's not any one of those tracks that I would deem really safe. And you're absolutely right. Those drivers who are in the top 5, top 10 of the points coming out of Florida a few weeks ago, they're going to be very, very happy with their situation right here, right now. Getting a bit of a jump start, moving their way forward into the midpoint of the season.
This racetrack, Tim, obviously formerly known as Phoenix International Raceway, ISM Raceway, part of the rebranding that the racetrack is currently going under. It wasn't that long ago that we got this current version of what was Phoenix International Raceway on the surface. They're completely redoing the racetrack now. By the fall time this year, the front straightaway is going to be on the back and vice versa, and that version will be coming to the sim as well shortly thereafter. But they're in the middle of those renovations. But it just goes to show you, I think, how open of a case this race could be. It is no stranger to this Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series schedule. This is going to be the 8th time this racetrack has been on the calendar. Parker, King, Ottinger, Conti, Alfala, Sturgis, Zelensky are the names that have found victory lane. Nobody's been able to do it more than once.
And you mentioned it, 7 races, 7 different winners. There are 4 former winners in this race. And oh, by the way, Evan, you look back to last year, Bobby Zelensky, when he went to victory lane in this race as a rookie, he only led 10 laps to go to victory. So you want to talk about an open case here at ISM? I think we're getting ready to see one here.
Drivers are heading down to the racetrack, getting set to go racing again. 156 laps on tap tonight for the ISM Raceway. It is not an overly long race as far as distance. The 1.022 miles of this racetrack means we'll go 159 miles between the green and the checkered flags. But of course, yellows and the pace of this race, I think, is going to be a big determining factor. That being said, let's go trackside and take a look at your RaceSpot TV starting grid. Pole position for this one with a familiar face. That is the number 5 of Michael Conti, who will start from pole position. 2013 winner at ISM goes off for the top spot, and Keegan Leahy joins him on the front row. Matt Busa, Yarl Tian going to make up row 2. They start 3rd and 4th respectively, with Bobby Zelensky in P5.
There's another former winner in Ray Alfala. He'll start 6th. Nick Ottinger, another former winner, in 7th. Brian Schoenberg starts 8th. Colton Davis in 9th, and Logan Clampett completes your top 10.
Dylan Duvall is going to start in 11th with Jake Sturgis in 12th. Zach Novak 13th. Casey Kerwin 14th. And Jimmy Mullis, he'll round out that 15th spot.
Christian Challenger is going to be on the outside row 8 there in 16th spot. Derek Bordeaux in 17th position, and Chris Shearbird alongside at 18th. And look back at row 10, it's going to be Cody Bias 19th, Taylor Hurst in 20th.
Marcus Richardson 21st, Timmy Hill 22nd, Nick Shelton 23rd, Chris Oberlin 24th, and Andrew Fash the 3rd to complete your top 25.
Blake Reynolds is going to roll off 26 with Brandon Pitgrass, Nolan Scott, David Rattler, and Alex Bergeron rounding out your top 30.
Then to continue things out, 31st through 40th is going to be Brad Davies, Adam Gilliland, Casey Tucker, Corey Vincent, Michael Cash, Joe Latorello, along with Philip Diaz, Ryan Michael Luza, and Ryan Lowe. 39 cars total. On the grid here tonight for the ISM Raceway, as the iRacing.com base car heads down in the safe in the pit lane. We have to say, as always, happy that you're spending a Tuesday night with us at RaceSpot TV at iRacing Live. Michael Conti, no hesitation in the American Ethanol green flag, and we are underway from Phoenix for the second race of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series campaign. Challenge for the race lead, short-lived. Leahy tucks in line second, and it is a free-for-all. Watch the dogleg for the first time as they spread them wide.
They're going to go side by side for position number 3. Busa to the inside, Tian on the outside. Look at Ray Alfalla, Bobby Zielinski, your winner from last season, already looking for a top 5 spot early in this one. They come off of 4. Tian on the outside, going to try to take that 3rd place position and try to roll the top and bring Ray Alfalla along with him.
Fowler really sandwiched in there in the middle, not space between in front of him to the 3 car and out the back to the 83 is Zelensky, but the spirited battle for 3rd is still on. You see side by side a little bit further back, last week's winner Nick Ottinger, and a 05 down on the inside of the racetrack as well. The banking falls away at this ISM Raceway as you head through the quarters down in 1 and 2, 10 to 11 degrees of progressive banking. That's the same thing you'll see in the dogleg in the back straightaway, but it slowly slips away as you head to turns 3 and 4 where the banking falls to just 8 degrees on the bottom and 9 degrees up top. You can see drivers, especially early on with those fresh tires, very aggressive on the dogleg, cutting down and trying to get an advantage. It does set that race car to be very tight down at this end. It's one of the guys watching real high, as the winner in that battle for 3rd will be Jarl Tian. Busa ends up 4th, and Alfalla will settle up P5 for the moment.
You mentioned, Evan, people washing up on that end of the racetrack. That 55 machine of Brian Schoenberg just did that through turns number 3 and 4. Tried to use the left side tires, put them underneath that yellow line, trying to loosen it up using the apron. Wasn't able to do so. He washed well up the racetrack and lost the position to that 05. And Nick Ottinger, he's going to try to poke the nose, but not quite going to get there. The 46 of Logan Clampett, he's going to try to work, but I think those 3 all going to be nice to one another. Teammates finish well at Daytona, and they look to just pretty much run single file as they roll now off corner number 2.
You can see the 41 a little bit out of the back end of Logan Clampett getting stuck up on the outside of the racetrack. That's Jake Sturgis. You see him up top as you look now out the back end. The Clampett's 46 machine as he is settled into the number 9 position. Really tight 2x2 in that group. Dylan Duvall on the inside with a 50 to Zach Novak. Up top is that 40 to Jake Sturgis. And the 14 machine as well of Casey Kerwin. Not a lot of space given to those drivers. Really squeezed up top to the wall. But that outside, if you run it right, can give you a decent enough run off in the quarter to defend. The inside allows you to go way down low. You see them spread out and then head back down into the quarter. So the 42 Duvall committed to try to make this one work. And that 41's not giving him a lot of space. Might have been a little bit too high that time. Sturgis up and out of the groove. That's how he ended up on the outside in the first place, and that's how he will lose that battle for 11th.
You get Novak right there as well. Duvall a little sideways down into corner number 1. Had some contact behind, and here comes Kerwin. 3 wide, and they're going to get it back to 2. Duvall and Sturgis falling back on that outside line. Bordeaux going to make up a spot. Shearburn going to come through the hole as well, and here comes Chalner in the 78 car. So one small little mistake. We talked about everything happening here, happening very quickly. You saw it with Dylan Duvall and Jake Sturgis. They lost about a handful of positions apiece as they now try to reset themselves from outside the top 15.
That's just what you need early in a race to get the blood flowing. Almost 10 laps into this race. It is still Michael Conti out in front. Of course, you can take a look at the leaderboard at the top of the screen as he continues to scroll on through the field. 0.8 of a second is the advantage of the driver of the number 5 Chevrolet at the moment. Still Leahy second. Really no changes. Tian, Busa, and Alfalla to round out the top 5. It's going to be a lot more difficult the further back you get in this pack to obviously find the separation that we see up front. I think we are single file for the most part in the top 10. The Brian Schoenberg is under attack in a fight for P8. Logan Clampett and that 46 Toyota on the outside as they head to turn number 3.
Logan's going to make that spot up easy as they're rolling towards 3 and 4. The 11 machine and Colton Davis wants to try to take advantage of that. Pokes his nose up to the top side, but I don't think Schoenberg's going to let him through. Indeed, Schoenberg gets back in the line after letting Logan through. Logan, of course, one of the championship contenders in 2017, and now he's going to have a look on the next car in line. That's going to be 83 machine of Bobby Zielinski. What can he do on that slip angle car? He's now right under that rear spoiler as they head off towards 3 and 4.
Zielinski, somebody else who has found a victory lane here at Phoenix, obviously the most recent winner in 2017, but Clampett is not going to wait around for the 83 to try to get up to speed. He'll get down to the inside of him and we'll go side by side again. So Clampett trying to get 2 spots in just as many laps, and you can already see that inside line of the racetrack getting a little bit darker as some rubber slowly begins to get put down, and he does complete that pass. Zielinski could have forced the issue, Tim, if you wanted to there. Probably could have dove to the inside on the dog leg. He did. He stayed glued on the back bumper of Clampett, who will maintain that spot.
Yeah, puts a little bit of pressure on him down the back straightaway, but Logan Clampett tries to pull away. Novak now to the outside of Davis as they come down into corner number 1, trying to pick up a spot, but for the most part, everybody just trying to pick up their spots right now and pick a place to race, clean and green, as you mentioned, through these first 12 laps of this one. And you talk about a guy like Logan Clampett. That might be a driver that we see here this evening, Evan, try to extend that streak of different winners. We've had 7 winners in 7 races here. You know, Logan Clampett is hungry. He might get one more here.
The battle for the race lead, all of a sudden Michael Conti has lost that big advantage that he had last time he checked in. It was at 0.8 of a second, but you're looking at a side-by-side for the race lead at lap number 13. The 5 car, you can see the desperation way down 20 feet below that yellow line in the center of the dogleg. It's wide open. You can go as long as you want down there, all the way up against the inside wall. But again, you did see that 5 really struggle with the push into the corner. That's the downside, and the 24 Leahy outside, new race leader. At lap number 14, Keegan Leahy goes to the point, and Conti falls back to second, and that may not be it, because now Tian in the number 3 Chevrolet took in a look to the inside of the racetrack and wants to keep the pressure on the 5.
Not sure what's up with Michael Conti. We saw him, like he said, out to 0.8 of a second of a race lead, and now he's falling into 3rd, dropping 2 spots in 2 laps. As Jarl Tien is going to try to just about get clear. He's not quite there, but he is in that 2nd position right now, in towards 1 and 2. And Jarl, one of the rookies in this championship, just came in through the qualifying season, and he's going to take that 2nd spot away. And past champion Michael Conti, he's going to continue falling the wrong way.
And I looked back to see if it was something as easy as a mistake for the 5 car, talking about the fact that they get all the corners here at Phoenix have very little grip. It's very easy to overshoot the corner with that lack of lateral grip. The car will just push, and it wasn't, as simple as just one mistake. Conti just knocked off a couple of lap times that weren't what he has been doing, and I think Keegan Leahy might have also flipped the switch a little bit, but he just wore him down over the course of maybe 4 to 5 laps. Got there pretty quickly, but he completed the pass, made it look easy. As again, now Conti's still sitting in 3rd spot. That's Busa right behind him. Alfala's a little bit further back from this top 4. You can see them a little bit further back there. Alfala, Ottinger have been taking a couple looks at each other. No side-by-side fights there as you see the top 10 now, and the rest of the lead group come down the front.
And as they take a look at each other, Logan Clampett getting a little bit bigger in their rearview mirror, and a couple of side-by-side battles behind. It looks like the 15 of Novak continues to hold that outside line, but for the most part, single-file racing throughout your top 10. As you look at Alfala, Ottinger's, there's 2 drivers that have been to victory lane here before. They know you can't win this race on lap number 17. Still some pit strategy to come, I'm sure, in this race, Evan. Talk to a couple of teams. You could probably stretch it to around 70 laps on gas, but you're not going to do that on the tires. So we'll see what happens with some of these teams and what kind of strategy they will employ as the 46 of Clampett gets on the back bumper of Ottinger and gives him a little bit of the business at a turn 2.
Is Clampett to get way down to the inside. The 46 machine has not been shy about that. Again, it's absolutely fair game with the open dogleg here at ISM Raceway, but it is probably not the best route to take if you're trying to conserve your tires for a long run. So maybe that means Logan Clampett doesn't think we're going to be going green flag top to bottom here at Phoenix. And again, it is a racetrack at 1.022 miles in length that just over a mile. Still very much though a short track, and the way it races is you watch a battle a little bit further back from where we're watching Clampett. That's the 55 of Schoenberg. There's down on the inside trying to fight with Jimmy Mullis in battle for 9th position. One of the final fights inside of the top 10 is you take a look at them now on the left-hand side of your screen. Really tight that time off the quarter. That's just the kind of the nature of the beast here at Phoenix. But you can see races where people get spread out and we have no problems. And you'll also see Phoenix races where you just can't get away from the trouble. So far, so good. As race leader Keegan Leahy gets set to complete lap number 20.
Things are still tight here as Brian Schoenberg is still trying to make moves, but he's going the wrong way. He was fighting a little bit ways up the road, but he's honestly fallen back a little bit. And now Bobby Zielinski, he's having to deal with Jimmy Mullis as they work down your front straight. That 27 car has been very, very quick, up 6 spots from where he started in that 15th spot. And that orange slip angle car, I think he's going to need to worry because he's now seen a handful of those drivers go by him that were starting behind him early on this one. He's dropped 1 or 2 spots. Saw him lose one to Logan Clampett a few laps ago. He's down 3 from where he started. I think he's going to be down 4, 5, 6 before we get too deep into this thing.
And early on, that's obviously not what you want to see happen. However, you expect drivers to be aggressive right from the get-go, and that has continued all the way through to this point. You see side-by-side battling a little bit deeper back in the pack, about 15th or so, really tight. The likes of Chris Shearbird in the mix as well, the 70 to Challenger, the one of Marcus Richardson, that group of cars, you see him come down the dogleg again. It's just very difficult to get space, to get away from somebody, and it's not like we're running at a 2-mile racetrack like a Phoenix or a Fontana that we'll see as well a little bit later on this year with the draft speed a factor in it. It's just you have X amount of cars, 39 total in this one, with relatively limited amount of real estate that where they can put those cars on track, and it makes it very difficult to get away, which is why it's pretty impressive. Keegan Leahy out in front of the field to 0.8 of a second. That's about as far as we saw Conti get away before Leahy reeled it back in. So we'll see if Jarl Tien's got anything up his sleeves, but the 24 out front at least has nothing to worry about as far as all of those battles that we're watching. It's clean sailing up in front and no lap traffic for a good bit still.
Yeah, a lot of those drivers up in front have that clean air and a little bit of separation, as you talked about. You get back to about 10th place or so, and then you get a little bit of side-by-side or a little bit closer racing than these drivers are doing up in front. Michael Conti lost position number 3 to Matt Busa. Busa moves up to that 3rd place spot. And Evan, keep in mind, there's a driver that led the here last year.
That is definitely weighing on his mind as he comes into tonight's race. Obviously, the drivers are back about 4 weeks ago or so before we headed off to Daytona International Speedway. Took a look at the calendar. Everybody likes to circle tracks that they feel is more so in their wheelhouse. Whether you're a more fan of a short track race like a Phoenix or a Richmond that we'll see as well later on, or even if you find your program and your team is very good at the intermediate race tracks, which tend to be the most setup sensitive and a little bit more wide open per se, but anytime you have a very strong run and you feel like it got away from you, a win that you deserve did not come home with you, that's definitely one that you want to pay an extra attention to. And right now as well, keeping an extra little bit of an eye on Nolan Scott behind the wheel of the number 16 Ford Fusion. He's currently fighting side by side with Michael Guest in a battle for 25th and 26th. Nolan is going to be our featured driver for tonight's race. Over the course of the season, we'll take a look at a couple of different drivers as we have the opportunity. A big thanks to Nolan for allowing us to get an onboard shot, if you will, with him as he races on his sim at home. The driver based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, I should say, in the Simucube Onyx Racing Ford Fusion, right now in the middle of the pack, which is that chaos zone we've been talking about still.
It really is. You don't really want to be in this part. We've seen a couple of drivers slowly fall into it. Nolan's doing good work. Got himself sort of on his own little island. He's leading a little train right now, along with Michael Guest, Brendan Pipgrass, Alex Bergeron is back there. And he's got relatively clean air out in front of him, so I think he's going to be pretty happy with that. But we've seen some of these guys who have gotten into this sort of mid-pack sort of zone and really started to struggle, like the Bobby Zielinski in the 83. He's been one of those. So for that number 16 machine, currently running 25th, trying his best as that 54 Michael Guest had a little bit of a peak coming out of corner number 4, but wasn't quite able to make anything happen with it.
And you see that 54 behind him now means that Nolan's doing exactly what he needs to do. 4th time for him competing in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Co-founder and co-CEO of the Onyx Racing Group. And you can see him putting in work now as you see that big group of cars behind him as well. 2 sets of 2x2 just out of the back end as the 54 tries to get up top. And the 16 machine, a little bit tight there. I think he wanted to come up the hill, Tim, and shut the door. Wasn't able to do so. And now he finds himself side by side, this time on the inside of the racetrack.
Getting a little free on that inside line for Nolan Scott as the 54 car, I guess, will get that run at a corner number 2 and set sail for at least the time being. And then behind them, you see Blake Reynolds on the inside trying to make that inside line work here for what would be just outside the top 25, position number 26, as it gets close off of corner number 4 with he and Brandon Pipgrass as they drive it down into corner number 1.
There's a car into the inside wall on the front straightaway. Looked like a red and white car, and it's the 4 of Timmy Hill. Just saw that out of the corner of my eye. He's slow right there, coming out of turn number 2. A lot of damage on the driver who was running in 24th position at the start-finish line. You can see the damage on the left-hand side of his Chevrolet, and he looked like that he just got a little bit loose off the corner and got into the inside wall on his own. Thought maybe he might have gotten tagged. It's a part of the racetrack where if you get any contact on the left rear or anything, it loosens up that car and you don't have a hope of catching onto it. But Timmy Hill got into the outside wall, came down, tagged the inside wall, very unforgiving with the total lack of an apron from about turn 3 all the way down to 1 with the pit road wall being right there, and that is where that left side damage comes from on Timmy Hill's entry. That'll drop him back 11 spots as he settles out in 33rd, but that's a good amount of damage. I'm not sure how long he's going to have to deal with that. I'm not sure if that race car is going to be able to get back up to complete speed either without having to come down and get serviced.
We're expecting roughly 70 laps for fuel, but like Tim said at the top of the show, likely nowhere near that for tires. So I think for Timmy Hill, currently working lap 33, he's likely not going to be too worried because they're likely going to be coming down for scheduled stops soon. That said, while we were looking at that out in front, Keegan Lee's checked out to 1.8 second lead, but Michael Connie has done a fantastic job and he's found his way back to that second spot. So interestingly enough, that number 5 car seems very, very quick early on, and it seems to come on strong from the middle point to the end of the run, but there's about a 10-15 lap window where I think Conti kind of struggles right now, but he's starting to run away from the likes of Busa, Tien, and Alfala behind.
You can see the gap out the back of Michael Conti's number 5 Chevrolet. If you remember, obviously started this race up front, but fell to 4th very quickly, but has since been able to move himself, as you mentioned, back up in a second spot. Busa back to where he started in 3rd. Jarl Tien back to where he started in 4th position. So no changes amongst those two. In fact, the top 7 cars at a racetrack right now will start it inside of the top 10. One of your bigger movers is Jimmy Mullis in the number 27 Toyota, the Racing of Virginia sponsored Toyota Camry, has picked up 7 spots and has just been able to get around Zach Novak. Is right on board with him. He would want to next set his eyes on teammate if Nick Ottinger in front of him, and it's a 3-car group that if you can catch up to, plenty of opportunities to get some spots.
And you see that 3-car group right in front of them. It's Tien, Alfala, and Ottinger, as you mentioned. But looking at that battle up in front, Evan, Keegan and Michael, those two drivers, about 1.8 seconds in between them the last 5 laps or so. Yes, it has fluctuated a little bit, 1.7, 1.8, as Nick Ottinger goes to the inside and almost gets into the 3, slides it up the racetrack, and is he going to save it? What a save by Nick Ottinger. Alfala to the inside, Mullis to the inside, and here comes Novak as well. Saved that car from danger at a corner number 2, and Nick Ottinger only going to lose 3 spots, but those 3 spots right in front of him. Wow, what a save.
He tried to shoot up the inside of Alfala and Tien, and a 3-car came down low. The 5 checked it up, and it was a big slot and as well very disciplined drive for the 2-array Alfala to get hard onto the brakes to make sure he stayed off of him. Alfala, that cost him about 2 to 3 spots as he falls to 7th, and we were just talking about Zach Novak. Novak is on the left-hand side of Alfala as we go on board with the Slip Angle Motorsports driver down to 3 and 4. You see on the left-hand side, that is the white number 15 car of Zach Novak. So Alfala did lose a couple of spots, but in exchange, he still has a race car. That one could have easily gone a lot worse. Very well disciplined by those drivers, though, to be able to hang on to that one and not take out 4 or 5 cars.
You don't win as many championships as Ray Alfala has done without being patient. So well done by him, like Evan just said. But with that, I don't think they're quite out of the danger zone just yet. You know, the great driving there by the 05 machine and Nick Ottinger, but the fact that those guys had to check up, it brought a whole lot of hungry names just behind them who are now lurking just a few car lengths back. You had the likes of Schoenberg, Clampett, Zielinski, Davis, Kerwin. They're just a couple of tenths back now from at one point being basically back a whole full second as I say that, the 46 machine. Logan Clampett gets half spun. He does a good job to actually save it and prevent any major contact, but that's going to be the first yellow of the night, and I don't see anyone else around, so I think that was indeed the caution. But as I was talking about that being the danger zone, Evan, first yellow flies.
and that was almost identical to what we saw happen in a battle with Ottinger. This time the 11 is the one who tried to move up, basically 2 spots on the inside of the racetrack. He was side by side with Zelensky and tried to sneak up to the inside of the 46 car of Clampett, and by the time he got down there, Logan's just following the 55 car in front of him with Ryan Schoenberg following in line, and you'll take a second look at the replay in this battle, and you'll see the 46 car come down by the time we get back down to turn 1, and the 11 wants to hold his position. That's fair, but we didn't really have the full position. You'll get a look at it now as they come off of 4. Watch that 11. They'll try to sneak up to the inside on the red and black entry. Clampett right there, and they both meet in the same spot. Very minor contact. Clampett breaks sideways. There's a good job at hanging on, but at that point, the yellow flag had already come out, and that means that we are in for some yellow flag pit stops. Everybody down, led by the 24 of Keegan Leahy at lap number 41.
And I think if this thing stayed green for a few more laps, Evan, we were going to see those drivers down on pit road. So that really brings these drivers down, gives them a little bit of an opportunity to breathe, get some tires on these race cars, and get back out at it just past the halfway point in what would be a fuel run of about 70 laps or so as everybody hits their stalls.
The 2-4 machine obviously going to want to get fuel and tires, and at a racetrack like Phoenix, dealing with track temperatures of 114 degrees, tires are at optimum as well. So he'll go 4 in and out. He'll be the first in and the first out. So a very well executed start for Keegan Leahy. Michael Conti going to be off of pit road 2nd, Matt Busa 3rd, Jimmy Mullis 4th, and Jarl Tien going to round out the top 5 off of the pit lane. And I don't think much to anybody's surprise, nobody on the lead lap stays out under that one. Everybody was in for service.
Yeah, really not a surprise at all, especially at a racetrack like this. We saw some people really starting to struggle with the tires. You know, we saw Nick Ottinger just get that scary little oversteer moment when he tried to make that move underneath the 2 of Ray Alfala. So really pretty much going to be 4 tires and gas. I don't really expect anything to change, Evan, unless we get about a 20 or so lap run at the end of this thing, and then we get a caution with about 10 or 15 to go. I think if you have any more than 10 or so laps that you have to run, 2 tires, there's no way you're going to be able to make it work here unless you're coming from way deep in the field.
One of the fun things we've been able to talk about the last couple of weeks, obviously, is some of the younger faces on the real world side of things with the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. A lot of the Cup Series drivers these days looking a lot like the drivers we have right here in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. So while we work under the yellow, we'll take a quick step aside and learn more about the up and coming younger class at NASCAR's top level.
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
Back live from the virtual ISM Raceway. Lights out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. We get set for a restart. Second race of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series underway at the moment. As we get set to go back read off of our first yellow, I want to remind you this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR and a proud title sponsor of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series here on the iRacing service. The pace car is going to tuck back down and in. Already almost a quarter of a distance through this race for the ISM Raceway, and let's see what the 24 of Keegan Leahy can do. Very good on the long run last time, and we've got another great race start on tap as we go back green. He gets the jump, and he'll clear to turn number 1. It'll put Michael Conti safely into 2nd, and just like we saw the first time, the first battle on track is for 3rd.
And it's Matt Busa on the inside, trying to take it away from Mullis in the 27 on the outside. We saw Zach Novak in that first run make a lot of moves on the outside line, Evan. He's currently there battling with Tien for that spot. Alfala, Zelensky, Schoenberg a part of that battle, and just behind them, almost 3 wide off of corner number 4. They are 3 wide with the 11 of Davis in the middle as they dive it down into 1.
That's exactly where you're going to get in the middle of the pack. The 11 machine, though, got to give him kudos, was just involved in that near incident. Headed out into turn number 1 a couple of laps to go. You can't let yourself get spooked by that. You got to be elbows up. If you are not actively trying to get something done on somebody in front of you on a race start here, somebody from behind is going to take advantage of that willingness to just be happy with where you are and jump all over you. And Colton Davis showers some sparks on the cars behind him as he brushes the wall in one of many side-by-side fights on a racetrack.
Pretty much half the field side by side right now as they come through the dog leg for the 47th time in this one. I'm still really interested to see what that 5 of Michael Conti can do, because we knew that he was the quickest driver on the short run last time. Pushes a little bit wide through 3 and 4, got up to the racetrack, but Diamond's off the apex of 4 nicely. He's really hounding that back of the 24 of Keegan Lee, but Keegan's doing a very good job to maintain that gap as well. But I think Conti's going to have something for him here in this first 10 to 15 laps of the run.
And you talk about, well, Conti was very good on the opening portion of that first run, then lost a little bit after 10 or so laps, dropped back to 4th, but then came back towards the end. We'll see if the 5 team can maybe balance that out a little bit, not be as aggressive early, and maybe can maintain a little bit more of a consistent pace throughout. He's doing a good job right now of staying there in second. You're looking out the back of your race leader, Keegan Leahy, who really had no issues on the restart of this race, staying out in front. Conti, then Mullis, Busa, and Novak, 2, 3, 4, and 5 at a racetrack at the moment.
And when you talk about Michael Conti's pace of the race as he looks to the outside of Keegan going down into corner number 3, it might not necessarily be Conti a little inconsistent more than Keegan Leahy stepping it up a little bit in the middle of the run, because those two were about even on the time chart prior to that caution flag. We'll see what they can do here. Your top 2 starting to break away just a little bit over Jimmy Mullis in the 27 and back to Matt Busa and the rest of that pack there. But it looks like those two right now keeping pace with each other and battling it out up in front, this time by 50 laps completed from ISM Raceway.
50 laps down of 156 on the board, almost 100 laps to go. Again, distance-wise, not a marathon by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a racetrack that can wear away at you. And definitely in the closing stages, things get a little bit more easy if we get a couple of late race restarts. Although that's still well on the horizon, and one thing that we were going to have to start talking about pretty shortly, Randy, before the yellow came out, would have been pit strategy. When would you come down pit road? We talked about how you could make it well into the 70s on fuel, but that would not be the call you want on those Goodyear Eagle tires. Well, that yellow came out just past lap 40, which leaves you with about 110 to go. You could, in theory, split that in half. It would be a little bit more than what you want on the tires, but I think almost doing 2 stops in that window would be a little bit short. So right now, that could be a wide open thing that the drivers are discussing with their crews.
It's going to be a difficult one because tire life's going to be huge. We haven't talked much about the weather, but it is hot, hot, hot today in the Arizona desert track. 114 degrees Fahrenheit, 84 degrees is the ambient. It's not too hot, but the fact that it's clear weather means there's a lot of temperature being pumped into that tarmac and into these tires, and that's going to make things very, very difficult for these guys making these tires last. So you're right, you could split it off into roughly 255 or so lap runs, maybe even have one be a little bit longer than the other, but it's going to be difficult keeping those 4 Goodyear Eagles good and solid underneath you here at Phoenix. It's a tough one, I think, about what you're going to do strategy-wise. I don't know if there is the right answer. I think luck's going to play a big part in this one.
And taking another look at a board with the driver who right now is in 24th position, so up 1 spot for the last time we checked in with them. Nolan Scott, who is our featured driver for this race. He'll have a challenge from the 66 of Blake Reynolds here at the moment as the 66 car goes down to the inside of the racetrack, and they do now fight side by side for that position. Nolan keeping himself busy not only with this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, but of course as well as actively enrolled in a Master's of Science and Management degree program, so doing a lot here and there. And just noticed from the last time we checked in, Tim, everybody getting a kick out of the fact he's racing with the socks on his sim rig.
Yeah, indeed he is, and it looks like he's a little more relaxed right now, even though he's up on the wheel battling with Blake Reynolds and the rest of those drivers out back. Challenge for position number 2 as well. Keep an eye on Michael Conti and Jimmy Mullis. Mullis flashed the nose the last time out of corner number 4, and we'll look to do it again down here into corner number 1. Conti falling back a little bit. We saw that in the first run. Maybe it's Keegan trying to step his pace up a little bit. Busa on the outside trying to make up some time from position number 4 as they dive it down into corner number 3. See Keegan just out of your frame, pulling away from this battle for position number 2.
He's not going to complain about that one at all. He got up to about 1.8 seconds, and it did balance out there a little bit, as Tim had noted, Randy. He wasn't actively pulling any more away towards the end of that run, but as this side-by-side fights for second continues, that's only going to help him out, as you see they both undercut that dogleg on the back straightaway here at ISM, and the 27 of Shidamolis takes a little bit of a higher approach in to try to undercut the 5 coming off of the quarter. Not going to happen. There was Conti again defensive on the outside, but you can definitely see again about 10 laps into the run, the 5 car not as quick as Jimmy Mullis tucked up right behind him. Mullis is your biggest mover inside of the top 20 cars on track right now at plus 12.
Referencing the fact that Keegan was not pulling away at the end of that run as quickly as he did through the middle. I believe it was a great Sterling Moss who once said, you only need to drive a race car as fast as you need to. Don't overcook it. Don't push the car too hard or push yourself too hard trying to open up a gap. I think that's what we were seeing from Keegan Lee, maintaining himself and maintaining the tires on that number 24. That said, things are still amping up in this fight for second place. Michael Conti really trying to struggle. I have to think he likely made an adjustment that he did not like. That 27 of Jimmy Mullis is all over the back of Michael. They head towards 3 and 4, and this is where Michael's been struggling. Look for him to get tight right here, all the way up to the racetrack, the top side of the racetrack. 27 of Jimmy Mullis. He looks down to the bottom, and they're going to be 2 by 2 as they come across the stripe and head off into 1.
And all of this has allowed the race lead to go to 1.5 seconds, but it's great action. Mullis again to the inside. Second set of 2 by 2 with Conti Mullis for third, and then Busa and Novak behind in the battle for fourth position. Outside, much better in both circumstances, as Busa is able to stay in front of Novak and take over sole possession of fourth for the moment. He pushed it a little bit high off for the quarter. Novak looks low. It is not going to happen, but still plastered on one another's door, Conti and Mullis, and that 5 car may not be as quick as the 27 right now, Tim, but he is working that outside defensive line to perfection, and it gives Jimmy Mullis very little to do.
And 2 of those drivers on the Chaos crew going at it for that spot, and it's almost like Jimmy Mullis is trying to pop the cork right now, Evan. The 5 of Michael Conti is leading this pack, but it was a 2-car battle at one point. Then it closed in Busa, it closed in Novak, it closed in Tian, and don't look now, Ray Alfala is just a part of this battle as well back there in that red number 2. So if Mullis can get by Conti, you might see Conti lose a couple of spots. You might see this pack get a little bit more side by side trying to make those spots. But as I say that, Michael Conti gets a great run at a corner number 2 and puts 2 lengths on those drivers behind him. And here comes Matt Busa taking a peek to the inside.
In the 27 machine as well, Jimmy Mullis was almost finding himself in the middle of 3 wide as Busa tried to go low on him, while I think actively at the same time, Mullis was trying to line himself up with a charge to the inside. Conti this back and forth, not going to go away anytime soon, and going to get a kind of a group of race cars here that don't want to get off each other. It tends to invite friends to the party. Jarl Tien and Ray Alfala in 6th and 7th position, getting into the action right now, as now everybody from 3rd on back over 2 seconds off for the race leader, but 3rd through 7th only separated by 7/10. So a big group right here that is not looking like it's going to spread out anytime soon. Look at Novak now trying the outside lawn on Matt Busa. That one is for 4th.
Let's see if Novak can be able to make this thing work. He got a great run off of 1, and now through the dog leg, things look very, very well. In towards 3 and 4, and what a move there from Novak to make that outside line stick through corner number 1. He's going to put that number 34 Radicals car of Matt Busa in his rearview mirror and set his sights now up 1 spot to the 27 of Jimmy Mullis. And you talked about the gap, Evan, between the likes of Keegan and Michael, and the fact that everyone back to 7th was so close together. It's really, from Michael to the rest of the field, constant gaps. There's not really any gaggles of cars anymore like we saw earlier. It's Keegan who's pretty much checked out, and then 1 long train of cars once you get pretty much to the depths of your field.
And somebody is always within reach of striking, and if you make a mistake, obviously going to be no remorse for the drivers behind to just jump right on you. But you're definitely right. We don't have those concentrated groups of 6-7 cars that are all 2 and 3 wide, but everybody is still relatively close together for working off the only yellow flag that we've seen so far this evening. Battle now between Tian and Alfala. The 3 and the 2 do it for 6th and 7th position, a little bit more towards the front of the field, and you see that red and black and number 2 Ray Alfala, the different colors with Virtual Racing School on board his Ford Fusion for this 2018 campaign. He'll get that spot away, and he returns to the spot in which he took the green flag from earlier tonight in P6.
Yeah, he's going to be a threat in this one before this thing is all said and done. Just a little bit ahead of him, Zach Novak, taking a look at Jimmy Mullis. Look down to the inside. As Randy mentioned, he made that move on the outside, made a lot of moves early in that first run on the outside line to get where he is right now, and now takes a look. Little peek to the inside that time at a corner number 4 as they put a lap on Ryan Lowe in the 7. They come up at a corner number 4, and it continues to be the 27 of Mullis setting the pace in that battle. Top 2 continues to be 1.6, 1.7 to 1.8 seconds, so it looks like that gap has stabilized. Maybe Conti's found his footing from the couple laps that he struggled a little bit there, Evan, and now in position number 2 and gapping this battle for position number 3.
We saw that 7 of Ryan Lowe come down pit road as we watch this battle for 3rd. He is now 4 and probably going to be 5 laps down before that correctly gets back out on track. Only he and Alex Bergeron are off of the lead lap of the 39 cars who started. 37 still on the lead lap. Nobody has had to go behind the wall yet this evening. There's Alex Bergeron right now 1 lap down in 38th position. So all things considered, so far so good for nearly now 69 laps of completed racing action from Avondale, Arizona. Ian Leahy, kind of what we were talking about with that first run, Randy, gets out to 1.7, 1.8 seconds and stops gaining. He's working that gap now. Conti better though that last time by about 1/10 of a second as it creeps back to within 1.5.
Yeah, I don't know how much he's really working it. The fact that Michael's starting to reel him in with the way that he was. It was just a couple hundredths for a couple laps, though, and then it picked up to about 1/2 a tenth, 3/4 of a tenth, and a full 1/10 of a second that last time through. Let's see what it is this most recent 1 mile trip around the racetrack. Keegan Lee in the 24, he's going to cycle through to 28.591. Michael Conti, he's going to go to a 6.58, so they go back to swapping lap times back and forth. I think that 24 car saw the fact the gap was coming down the way it was and likely slightly picked up the pace out in front.
We'll see if they continue to base how hard they want to push their cars early on off of each other. It is noteworthy that we're only about 5 laps away from crossing the halfway point tonight from ISM Raceway. When we get to that point, as always, we'll take a look top to bottom at your iRacing the midway race break. But when you get green flag laps like this and you get that tad bit of separation, it definitely helps things out as this race works at a blistering pace so far.
And we're going to hit about 30 laps or so on the run as we get a little bit closer to that halfway point in the race. So they continue to put laps on the tires. And this is about the time, Evan, in that first run that we saw these guys get a little bit sideways. The fuel load's a little bit burned off. It's a little bit lighter in the back end. And these cars start slipping around a little bit here at ISM Raceway. So we'll see what happens here as we get closer. Caution flag is out, though.
And just as you say that, it's going to be problems with the O2 car of Alex Bergeron. Was it a self-spin? He had a little bit of assistance on this one. As we'll get a look at a RaceSpot TV replay in just a moment, he was running in 38th position. In fact, we were just talking about him being a lap down, and he got caught up in a couple of lead lap cars battling for position, and you'll see right here, tries to cut down to the inside. Carlo, that's the 13 machine, nowhere for Brad Davies to take evasive action, and again, it was a relatively tame incident. The O2 slid back up, could have been a lot worse than it was. If anytime you come up onto the racing surface, although I think in that case that dogleg really came in handy because everybody went low. And well, it's Alex Bergeron from 2 laps down in 38th position who goes around. And for the second time tonight, we are under caution flag conditions. Second time tonight, everybody wants fresh tires as we head back to pit road to Keegan Leahy once again looks to lead him in and out.
And let's see, I hope for Keegan's sake he's able to do so. He's had impressive pace all night, but still a bit of an interesting incident there with a lap down car getting in with some of your guys on the lead lap as everyone's going to cycle through into their box. And well, no, I think the 5 machine of Michael Conti, he may have just missed his box a little bit. I think we're going to see Michael drop a couple spots on this one.
If he wants to stick with the 4-tire call, or if because of the mistake he wants to shake anything up, Leahy is going to lead in and out. And for the 5 of Michael Conti, he does get his 4 tires, but he will exit pit road. Looks like behind the 55 is Schoenberg, Alfala, and Novak. So a couple of spots do get shuffled up, but just as we saw the first time, everybody on the pit lane wanted to get some fresh tires. And the field in its revised running order is going to come by and collect the iRacing.com pace car as of this time around. So the yellow flag ends up coming out just a tad bit shy of the halfway point, but let's take this opportunity to take a look at your iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks from all around the globe, and in the fast-paced world of eSports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. Working lap 75, Keegan Leahy has established himself as the control car in this race over top of Jimmy Mullins, who runs in second at the moment, with Zach Novak, Ray Alfala, and Brian Schoenberg rounding through the top 5. Michael Conti is 6th, Jarl T in 7th, Logan Clampett at 8th, Nick Ottinger 9th, and Bobby Zelensky rounds out your top 10.
A driver that lost a little bit on pit road, you mentioned Michael Conti. How about Matt Busa going to fall to position number 11? Casey Kerwin in 12th, Derek Bordeaux in position 13, Dylan Duval in 14th, and Chris Shearburn in 15th. Nick Shelton in 16th, Taylor Hurst in 17th. Ryan Lewis, a little bit of a struggle here this evening. He's in 18th, but he started in 38th position, so he's working his way up. Michael Guest in 19th, and Chris Overland completing your top 20.
And still in this hectic mid-pack, you have the likes of Christian Challoner in 21st, Colton Davis, Blake Reynolds, Jake Sturgis, Cody Bias. They round out as 25th, with Adam Gilliland, Marcus Richardson, Brandon Pitgrass, Corey Vincent, and Nolan Scott, our featured driver, rounding out the top 30. They're going to begin forming up, and we're going to be ready to go back to green flag racing.
Rattler, Diaz, Latorello, Tucker Davies, Faye Ash, and Timmy Hill through the lead lappers on 37th position. One lap down, Alex Bergeron still 38th, and Ryan Lowe 4 laps down in 39th. As I look top to bottom at your iRacing.com midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. Pace car to head back down. And the number 24 car, Keegan Leahy. Very good last time. He had to go through the motions. See if he can keep that Chevrolet SS in front of the rest of the field as he takes no hesitation and brings a 3-car length advantage to the green flag.
For the third restart, we see the top 2 get single file. Well, maybe not. Here comes the 15 Novak taking a peek to the inside, trying to make something happen for position number 2. Alfala that top side. And the first time we've seen Michael Conti all night long in traffic, he sits in 5th.
15 to machine. Again, you can cheat that yellow line down in 3 and 4, and hasn't been doing it all that much, but it's a good way to establish inside positioning. Not the fastest way around it. Again, top side, that water trip around the racetrack, that little bit more banky allows you to get a much better run off for the quarter. It's what puts Jimmy Mullis in 2nd. It'll be what puts Ray Alfala to 3rd, and might also be what puts Michael Conti to 4th. Yes, it is. The 15 to Novak might lose 4 spots as he lost 3 up top, and now Schoenberg gets to his inside.
Zach Novak is not going to be a happy camper, but the 5 of Michael Conti is. He rolled off thing. We got a big pileup off of corner number 4. I see half a dozen cars. It is a parking lot near pit entry. I see 4 or 5 cars stopped on the racetrack, and everyone else trying to fan their way through. Everyone finally gets it figured out, but a huge incident coming off corner number 4.
It looked like it all started with the 36 car of Chris Shearburn. We'll get a second look on a RaceSpot TV replay. When we caught the end of it, looked like a parking lot. I think a lot of the field just jammed on the brakes and came to a stop. You saw the 36 there. There was a checkup up top, and he just happened to be the odd man out that got knocked around. And the problem is, not really him. He did a very good job, Tim, at keeping that car down on the flat of the racetrack and not coming back up. But it was a 74 of Taylor Hurst who had nowhere to go, and you'll see Hurst go right into the path of the 36. He tries to get out of it at the last second. He actually ends up blocking the racetrack after tagging the 11 of Colton Davis, and that is where a majority of the chaos comes from.
Yeah, got Chris Overland through that. Might have got a little piece of it. Ryan Lewis might have a little front-end damage after just barely getting by Shearburn and the start of that one up near the front of that wreck. But the caution flag flies again, and this is the first quick caution that we've seen after a restart this evening. So I don't expect anybody down onto pit road, but there's that strategy that might come into play once again as well. We get another one of those 30-lap runs. It's going to play into strategy to see who takes 4 tires and who makes it the rest of the way.
Yeah, because so far things have been relatively uniform. Obviously, anytime you get a yellow, it is going to change things up a little bit. People come into a race I mean, even a race like Phoenix, where you don't necessarily expect it to go green all the way, but with the game plan, if we go green, this is when we're going to pit and so, and the yellows, to be honest, Randy, haven't been all that disruptive. Right at quarter distance, essentially just a few laps shy of being right at half distance. Everything's relatively okay with that. You can still make a run to the end of this race if you want with one stop, but if we do get some of those shorter runs, or a 20 or a 25 or a 30 here or there, and it doesn't split it right in half like we've been seeing so far, that's when you'll start to see drivers stray, because we've seen everybody come down pit road twice, we've seen everybody take 4 tires and fuel twice. So far, everybody agreeing on what the call is going to be. The more things get interesting late in a race with restarts and laps winding down, that little bit of camaraderie goes out the window.
Absolutely right. And our featured driver of the night, Nolan Scott, seems to have gotten a piece of that, and well, he looks visibly frustrated, checking some things on the phone. Never a good sign for a driver. That's usually a bad sign, usually sending a message to someone saying that, you know what, things just didn't go my way. But that was a big one. And not only were the previous cautions not as destructive in terms of the strategy, Evan, they weren't as destructive in terms of the car counts. I mean, up until that, we only had 2 cars off the lead lap. We still only have a couple cars off the lead lap, but there's a lot of cars out there with pretty severe damage now, where it's pretty much up until that point, I think pretty much of our 39 cars that took the green, I think we had 35 or 36. It was pretty much clean race cars. Timmy Hill, I think, was the only one that really had big major contact. So that took out a number of, I think, very competitive cars here at a very interesting point in the race.
You talk about what drivers do under the yellow. How about what Ryan Michaeluza is doing under green flag conditions in this race? He is racing tonight with a broken collarbone, so he's only got the left hand on the wheel. Over the course of this entire race, that 6 cars got damaged, and he's right in the middle of the pack, so he is going to have that one arm working pretty good through the end of this thing. So he tries to not only keep that race car in the one piece that it relatively remains in, but of course, anytime you're back there in the high teens and the 20s, it is a chaotic position to be in, especially when you're healthy, let alone if you're working with an injury. The pace car is going to go back down and in. The 24, Rashida Keegan Leahy, is going to be in control once more. So far, so good for the number 24 car. Let's see what he can do this time as the field falls into his hands at turn number 4 as we get back underway. Good look there as the drivers work on for the restart, and we get a little bit of separation up front. Rail Fowler third through all of that in front of Michael Conti. I think the top 5 or 6 is where the single file it is. 7th on the back is where the fun is. Logan Clampett just now clearing the RLTN. We went on board with him through a couple of those opening laps. He's trying to get out of the way. Nick Ottinger, that 05, making a charge up in the battle for 7th and 8th.
Casey Kerwin a part of that battle as well, and there's Matt Busa. Had that bad pit stop, put him back a little ways, and now taking a look to the outside of Kerwin. Right in front of him, that battle between Tien and Ottinger. Ottinger on the inside, trying to get every piece of real estate that he can off corner number 2 to try to settle that battle. Kerwin gets ahead of Busa, but Busa will try to roll the top and set it up in corner number 3.
Busa looking to have a good run tonight, obviously. Put himself in a good spot. Started in 3rd. He has not been going in the right direction. And these restarts have began to have a little bit more of an effect on track position than what we saw earlier on tonight. You look at somebody like a Casey Kerwin, who has been able to work inside of the top 10, but after getting there, hasn't been able to get much further. The number 14 car down on the inside of the racetrack, side by side with the 34 of Matt Busa. So groups of cars here and there. That slow car up top, the yellow one, that's what's left of the 47 of Chris Overland. He's the first car 1 lap down in 36, but there is a lot of damage on the 47 Ford after getting involved in an accident. He is doing his best to hang on, and he is giving the guys on the inside of the racetrack, the race leaders, the faster cars, the preferred lane. But still, anytime you're working around a car slower than that, it makes you feel, I'm sure, a little bit nervous.
Definitely makes you a little sad as well. I think there's more that number 47 car has been taken off the car and thrown onto pit road than there is still on that car that's out there and running still. Everyone's trying to do their best to avoid that yellow car, and actually somebody who's getting caught in a really weird position, 34, Matt Busa. He just basically got the anti-pick treatment there as he got caught up right behind Overland. He dropped 1 or 2 spots really easy. I think he might drop 3 in total through corner number 1 on the run. 3 wide with a couple cars in between him. Got the 14 of Casey Kerwin as well as the 04 of Derek Bordeaux. They're still 3 wide through corners number 3 and 4. They're going to keep it that way. No, they're not. But Matt Busa is going to be the big loser there, dropping I think 4 or 5 spots just from that one bad lap with that one lapper.
That's what you get. That's what the consequences are of racing on a racetrack like this. It goes back to the point we made earlier, despite the fact that, you may not see drivers 3 and 4 wide 20 laps into a run, and they may be running single file. Everybody cut it up to the point that a mistake will absolutely cost you, and there are plenty of opportunities to make mistakes at a racetrack here at ISM. But the guys up front have been very calm, cool, and collected. Keegan Leahy, again, a masterful execution on the restart. Is not at that signature 1.8 second advantage. That's only 0.6 at the moment. So maybe the rest of the field, Mullis, Alfala, Conti, and Schoenberg, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, are starting to catch on, figuring things out. And if you're staring at a guy's back bumper for long enough, you're going to want to get creative and try to experiment and figure out what he is doing. But they are definitely closing things in a little bit compared to what we saw earlier, with the 24 was much better than them in comparison to right now, where we'll still be the fastest car on the racetrack. It is not by as much.
You just saw on your screen a couple of moments ago, the driver on the move is Derek Bordeaux in the 04 car. He makes a move to move into the top 10 and now into 9th as Jarl Tien going to move back to position at number 10. Bordeaux, we saw him a little bit earlier in that second run, Evan, start to push towards the front of the field. A couple of drivers have some bad pit stops. He gets off pit road and now finds himself in the top 10. I don't think Bordeaux is done this evening. Could be a top 5 run coming if he can continue the speed. He's got Ottinger in front of him, Logan Clampett, and not too far off that top 5.
And that's the key, really. Just keep yourself in the conversation. We've talked about many times already tonight, the drivers who obviously have the best cars can find a victory lane here at ISM, but it is also a racetrack that has seen a handful of drivers just kind of, I don't think luck into it is the right word, but to find themselves in the right position at the right time, to peak at the end, if you will, and you're unable to do that if you are not in the conversation when it matters the most. As we work lap number 94 of the evening, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bedliners, the official bedliner of NASCAR. Nearly now a second is the gap for Keegan Leahy out in front of the field, but just be there, be 5th, be 6th. Might not win you the race under these circumstances. In a late race restart, that is a brand new ball game, and you cannot let yourself forget that at any moment this race could completely change, and those 1 or 2 positions could be the difference between being on the inside or the outside for a key restart, as we see Clampett apply pressure to the back end of Novak.
Well, Evan, I think you were a little scared to say it, but I'll just say it. Winning one of these races, I think, is what heavily determines it, as much as skill and preparation, is going to be luck. Having a fast race team is 25% having a good team, 25% having a good car, and 50% things going your way. And we've seen in this championship in the past, some drivers, things just fall their way, things fall in the line, people find themselves in good positions at the end. We've seen that from Jimmy Mullis, worked his way up from 15th to 2nd, Derek Bordeaux 17th to 8th, Zach Novak 13th up to 6th, and another driver who's really moved with that broken collarbone, Ryan Michael Luza, 38th up to 13th. That 6th car, he is a man on a mission today, already up 25 spots, and I think he's going to get in the top 10 within these last 60 laps.
He continues to close in. I mentioned earlier Jimmy Mullis was the biggest mover inside of the top 20. That's because Luza was just outside of that range, but he continues to mark his way forward 25 positions, as noted, up from where he started this race, and that is with a damaged race car. That is not a brand spanking new. Look at number 6 Ford Fusion as you see 3 wide now with the 21, really tight that top off of the corner. It's Selensky way down low, and it was Cody Bias who got sandwiched in between between them, and luckily the 21 dropped the anchor out the back end and got out of there. And they dropped back to 2x2, but a close call.
And I don't think Cody Bias is currently happy where he's running right now. He's got his teammate Dylan Duval on the outside, but he looked to try to pop the cork here and try to make it by Luzen Zielinski. Here comes that number 21 of Bias down to the inside, trying to make something happen on that inside groove. Duval forced to the outside line. Looks like Marcus Richardson going to try to make a move in car number 1. But it looks like Ryan Luza has that position. We'll see if he can pull away from Zielinski and close up on Casey Kerwin. He's got about 3/4 of a second to close in on that next position.
The side-by-side fight now for second spot. It's going on all over the racetrack. Ray Alfala to the inside of Jimmy Mullis down the back straightaway. The fight for second on track. Saw a lot of smoke. That's Nolan Scott, driver we've been following tonight. The 16 smoked the motor, and he's going to drop out of this one as that car limps to pit road. And through the smoke screen comes Ray Alfala into the number 2 position, completing the pass on Mullis.
Well done there by Ray, and unfortunate for Nolan. I'd love to have a look at the Nolan cam, but I think he's going to be a very, very frustrated individual as Ray's going to try to push that gap open away from Jimmy Mullis. Michael Conti, he smells blood in the water. He wants to make a move on that 27 car. Michael goes to the top in 3 and 4, so where he's been all night and found decent speed. He's going to dime it off the exit here. Let's see if he can get a run. Not going to quite be able to get there, but still going to be lurking on the back of that 27 machine. He may not be able to pass him right here, right now, but he can worry the heck out of him and maybe force a mistake out of Jimmy.
100 laps now complete for the ISM Raceway, closing in on 50 laps to go tonight. From Avondale, Arizona, second race of this 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, and we're happy that you're with us. Keegan Leahy took over control of this race about 8 laps into it and has not looked back since then, with Alfala, Mullis, Conti, Schoenberg to the top 5, and Novak, Clampett, Bordeaux, Ottinger, and Tien through the top 10. The question is, the yellow flag most recently coming out just after the halfway point, but it was the one before that, just shy of halfway when everybody came down pit road. Do you go all the way to the end of this race, or do we have pit stops on the horizon? Because if we do, they're not all that far away.
I don't know if you can stretch it that far on fuel from that lap 74-ish caution flag, so they're definitely going to have to come in again, Evan. It's just a matter of how far do you stretch it on tires and how far you think this race is going to go green before potentially another caution flag comes out. Conti to the inside of Mullis, going at it for position number 3 as the 5 tries to work that inside line. First time we've really seen the number 5 struggle a little bit in traffic, but then again, Evan, first time we've really seen him in traffic. Been running in the top 2 positions all night long, pulls his foot out of it down into corner number 1 and has to reset, try to get that 27. Gets a great run out of corner number 2 to the back bumper. Does he try to go down on the dog leg? Can't get there as he'll dive down to 3.
And now you're starting to talk about those 2-second intervals, in which I think if this race were to stay green, obviously there's a ton of time available in a cycle of green flag pit stops, how aggressive you want to be on the pit road. It is a very flat entry here at ISM Raceway. Plenty of opportunity to make up time, plenty of opportunity to lose time and a mistake. Also, obviously, do you short pit it? And you have to look at what the difference is going to be on tires. The fastest lap in this race, as we continue to watch the fight with the 27 and 5 for 3rd and 4th, the fastest lap that Jimmy Mullis has put down all night on fresh tires was a 26.9. Here in a 28.6 the last time by. So we're looking at nearly 2 seconds of fall off. So short pitting by 1 or 2 laps could instantly erase the deficit that we're seeing between the top runners.
That's really the big thing. So right now, I think if you're Keegan Lee, that's one thing you're really worried about, is knowing that if Ray Alfala comes down pit road, there's potential that if you come down 1 lap later, that gap could be completely gone if Ray has a good enough outlap. That said, I don't think anyone's going to quite be able to make it, because while the last caution came on we went back to green somewhere around lap number 84. Most of our front runners didn't come down pit road that time. Most everyone was somewhere around lap 74, let me take that back. 76, 77 is when we had that last caution. So that's where people have fuel at for the most part among your race leaders. A couple guys in the back did come down pit road. So if anyone can make it, it might be a surprise dark horse from deep in the field. But I don't think there's any way anyone inside your top 10 or so, top 15, probably even top 20, can make it to the end on this thing.
And if the drivers accept him that they're not going to be able to make it to the end, what is the strategy call going to be? Because this is where now those yellows have an effect on things as we still watch Conti adamantly trying to get a position on the inside of Mullis. And he'll get it this time down the dog leg. He cuts it low, but it's not going to be enough to get the car completely side by side. He keeps the nose in there, and they will continue to pester each other for third and fourth. But do you split the run in half in 5 laps? Do you come down pit road, get 4 tires, fill her up, and go to the end? Or do we see somebody having been just shy to make it to the end? Do they stretch it as long as they can and maybe go for a splash and to go on 2 tires?
Tires are going to mean a lot here, and it's easy for us to say because we're sitting up here and we're not on the boxes trying to make those calls. About 40 laps into this run, and now granted there was some caution laps, would be around lap 115 or so, which is about another 5 laps away as Conti continues to work that inside of Jimmy Mullis for that position. It's easy for us to say up here. If I was me, I would come down on 115, but I've never won a NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series race, so it's easy for us to talk about up here, but we'll see what happens with these drivers. But about 40 laps into this run is about another 5 laps or so, and it would be a nice little stint to the finish. You might see some guys stretch it to try to maybe get a caution flag and maybe try to play a little bit of strategy, but oh, there we go, caution flag's out.
Let's it again, right at 3/4 distance. About yellow flag is out from Phoenix, Arizona, and we will slow things down, and that means that everybody's going to be on pit road together as we have the 4th caution of the evening coming out. Just as your race leaders were completing lap 112. We'll try to get a second look at this one in just a moment. I believe the contact was with the 57 of Joe Lottarello and the 8 of Adam Gilliland. They got together in a fight for 25th and 26th, and very similar to the incident we saw earlier with Clampett. You'll see these two make contact off of the corner. The 57 gets sideways. They went for a slide. It was a great save, though. But again, because that dogleg is open at Phoenix, any other racetrack, Randy, that's down below the yellow. That's not a yellow. Here, that is the racetrack. So a caution flag comes out, and a mass of cars hits pit road for what will be now for them the final stop, at least for fuel, to get to the end of this race now at lap 113.
Not only that, not only is any other racetrack that not a yellow at any other racetrack, I think we're talking about 2 cars heavily into that inside wall. You have so much room here at Phoenix with the dogleg to potentially work with. But that said, Evan, like you said, everyone coming down on towards pit road as we would suspect. And, well, this is where you have to be perfect. We saw a couple people last time they made a trip down pit road, make some errors in the box. 83 of Bobby Zielinski, he just overshot his box, so he's likely going to drop a couple of spots from that 13th position. Everyone else, I think, was pretty much perfect on the way in.
And it's going to be tight off of pit road, though, and the race to the lawn is not going to be Keegan Leahy. How about Ray Alfalla in the number 2 Ford? Comes down pit road, goes for the 4 tires just like everybody else, but he stayed glued on the back of the 24 in, and the 24 car, Keegan Leahy, will lose the race lead on pit road.
I think this is the first time all night long that we're going to see somebody other than Keegan Leahy or Michael Conti lead this field to green on a restart. Remember, Ray Alfalla won here in 2015. The other thing that I wanted to point out, I like looking at trends, Evan. There's only been 1 driver to ever lead over 100 laps in this series at this racetrack and go on to win. It's PJ Sturgis 2 years ago. Keegan Leahy's right at that point around leading 100 laps. But we've seen it before. We've seen some drivers here that have led the most laps and not gone to victory lane. Ray Alfalla is going to try to make that a 4th.
And nothing as well for the 2 car, Randy. You have to give a tip of the cap to Ray Alfalla because the 24 to Keegan Leahy was picture perfect. He was getting the restarts that he needed to do. The funny was right there at about 3rd position off of the restarts. It slowed everybody else down, allowed the 24 to get a gap. By the time everybody had sorted themselves out, that 1.8 seconds was just a little bit too much to get. So Alfalla gets him on maybe a weak spot for the 24. I don't want to say that Leahy was becoming complicit because he was very good in and out the last 2 times he came down as your race leader, but the 2 of Alfalla, now he's going to come back down.
This is big, so that means that 24 car, he's going to be the lead car. And where is Ray Alfalla going to cycle out? Could they be really, really tight on fuel? I know we were thinking 50, but 41 laps to go. I think the only reason you come back down pit road if you're Ray Alfalla is if you didn't get the thing topped up or if you want the thing topped up. And if you're gambling for it to go green, well, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. That would be an uncharacteristic mistake. Let's see how long he's in the box. Taking tires again, so it's another full stop.
And I wonder if maybe, I did see the right and the left side of that Ford Fusion go up. You have to think maybe if Ray Alfala only got fronts or only got rears, but the lefts and the rights go up, and Ray Alfala is going to go from going to the race lead in this thing to all the way at the back of the lead lap. He will cycle into 33rd position for the race start. So quite a turn of events. Has Keegan Leahy right back where he wants to be. All of that, he'll be the control car coming to what could be one of the final race starts on the night with 41 laps to go from ISM Raceway. American Ethanol green flag flies once more. Mullis is right there, but Leahy does clear to turn 1.
Man, Keegan Leahy is great on those restarts this evening. He pulls back up to that lead position. Mullis and Conti comfortably in second and third. But here comes Schoenberg, the Heyman Hustle 55. Looking to the inside of the 5 of Conti. Conti going to clear him down to the corner. Then side by side behind, Clampett trying to make his way to the front. He's got Ottinger to the outside.
And Ottinger trying to work his way into the conversation, has been on the outside of the top 5, knocking on the door for the better part of this night. Just looking for that little bit extra. You have to expect those teammates will give each other a little bit of extra space compared to everybody else, but a yellow flag is going to fly off for the restart, and it's problems in turns 1 and 2. Alex Bergeron in the O2 is around.
So more issues here, and well, what started out as a very, very clean race is slowly turning into a bit of a caution fest, as I believe that's second or third time we've had a back-to-back caution situation, as the O2 of Bergeron ended up in this one. Who all was involved? I believe the Ford car involved, and Ray Alfala, talk about that mistake. He barely squeezed by that incident, almost got caught up in that. Ray needs to be counting his lucky stars for that one.
And kind of indirectly causes that one. He goes to the inside on Timmy Hill. It's a fair move. You see right there, Alfala's got the position. Timmy Hill barely gets into him as he was trying to split the difference, and the Ford car moved up to give Alfala space, and he just happened to move up into the left rear quarter panel of the O2 of Alex Bergeron, and that's how Bergeron goes around. You take another look at this one. Alfala goes to the inside. They're 3 wide. I'm not sure the O2 machine is aware of it, and I think the Ford's hoping he can split the gap. He moves up, and just barely, he's almost clear of him, but Bergeron maybe by a half a foot still there, and when he tags him in the left rear, that car goes sideways. Bergeron goes around, and he brings the 4 to Timmy Hill, and the 74 of Taylor Hurst up into the outside wall with him, and they're going to get some substantial damage, and they will limp down to the pit lane as your race leaders neglect to come down pit road, I'm sure favoring track position now late in this race.
It's been a tough sled this race for Bergeron and Hill, as they'll try to find out what's left of those cars and try to pick up the positions in these closing laps. But when you look at these remaining laps on the racetrack, I think if we get a 20-lap run or a 25-lap run, it might be interesting to see what those drivers do on pit strategy up in front. But we've seen some of these races go this way before, Evan, with a couple of cautions near the end. And we've seen some drivers try to play a hero and come down pit road and get some tires and try to rally from the back. So this one is far from over, but Keegan Leahy has definitely led the most laps in this one and trying to rack up a victory. If he can do so, it would be the 8th different winner at ISM in this series. But you look at Jimmy Mullis back there, you look at Michael Conti, who's been so strong. He's a former winner here. Brian Schoenberg has come close so many times, looking for that first career win in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. And then Nick Ottinger coming off Daytona, looking to get another victory for that 05 team. So there's a lot of strength up in front, but you'd have to believe they're all chasing Keegan Leahy with the strength that he has shown all night long.
And I think under the circumstances in which we've seen so far to this point, the 24 of Keegan Leahy absolutely has the best car. Now, it might not be by as much as it was earlier on, Randy, but I think that advantage still goes to the 24. The problem with a racetrack like Phoenix is it does not care about that. And you get a yellow now with just over 37 laps to go in this race, means you'll probably get another yellow and maybe a couple more yellows. And when you have late race restarts, everything goes out the window. Nobody is all that concerned about being as clean as they can, because they know that that's going to be maybe one of their last best opportunities to get a couple of spots. And that is when a very well executed, well strategized race can fall apart.
We've seen these races in this championship be decided in the past all by a stack up of cautions at the end. We saw Dylan Duval get his first win a couple of years ago at Indianapolis off that very situation. He made a pit lane strategy, decided not to come down pit road late with about 20 some odd laps to go. We got a chain of cautions to the end. We saw something similar happen at Michigan that very same year. So you're absolutely right. If we get a 15 lap run here and then we get a caution, I would expect most of the field to come down and 1 or 2 gamblers to stay out. And then from there, it's just hoping things fall your way, hoping the flags go your way, hope that if you're someone who's on 4 tires, you get green, hoping if you're one of those guys who gambles and tries to stay out, you get out in front. So from here, it all depends on how things are kept out there on the racetrack. That is what is going to decide this strategy-wise. If nothing does go crazy, I think we finish this one on this current strategy.
Lights out on top of the pace car once more. Any of these it'll be the final race start of this race, and that's how every single driver of the 32 cars at the lead lap are going to have to race it. Nice job at the 24 Leahy, holds them back. You saw Jimmy Willis trying to get out in front, had to check it up, and it'll be Leahy down to turn number 1. Willis safely in second, and then you have Conti Schoenberg for third.
The 2 Team Conti teammates going at it for that 3rd place position. Your top 2 single file, and it's probably the best restart we've seen out of Jimmy Mullis all night long. Keep up with Keegan Leahy on that start. Schoenberg working that outside line, trying to take that 3rd place position as Mullis works over Keegan Leahy's bumper for the first time this evening as they go down the front straightaway. Ottinger side by side with Novak, battles all over the racetrack.
Exactly what you expect to see. Chaos off for the restart as everybody wants to go at it. Late tonight for the ISM Raceway. Battle for the race lead. Very much on, though, as Jimmy Mullis traces the back of Leahy all the way down the back stretch. Loses a little bit of time, though, coming into turn 3. The 24 machine only with about a half a car length advantage. Schoenberg is third, as you mentioned, won that fight with Conti, who drops it now up into the number 3 spot. Schoenberg 4th, Clampett in the number 5 position. And then the first fight on track is for 7th between Zach Novak and Derek Bordeaux. But you always have to keep that half eye on this battle for the race lead as the 27 within striking distance, so he chooses.
Things are getting crazy up and down the racetrack. We saw once we came back to green, a bit of a half spin to the 6th car. Ryan Michaeluza, he's going to have a look here through this little mid-pack. This is part of that battle for 7th, 8th, 9th. And, well, Ryan Luza, I think he's going to pick that one up. And next driver in line is going to be Zach Novak, who's going to be 4-7. So that was a little bit further down the order than I thought it was. But still, Ryan is a man on a mission coming from deep in this field and is now comfortably in the top 10, and he's looking for a top 5.
Ian Mullis continue to take a look to the inside, take a look to the outside. Still nothing to brew it. You have to remember, yes, we are late in this race, but the next time by, we're still going to have 30 laps to go. There's essentially, if you count the dogleg in the mix, there's 3 sections of quarters here at Phoenix. 1 and 2, the dogleg, and then 3 and 4. So this time by, still 90 opportunities to make the pass. So do not think you have to do it now. Do not put yourself in a compromising position, all at the same time finding the right balance and being aggressive.
We see that sense of urgency just outside the top 10, but these drivers that are running up front battling for the lead, they're trying to pace themselves right now, trying to get in a rhythm and trying to get to the end of this race. Keegan Leahy leads Mullis, then the 2 Team Conti teammates, Logan Clampett, Nick Ottinger, now trying to fend off or trying to get by Logan Clampett for that spot. He'll clear Clampett, slide job up. Clampett tries to go to the inside, but now he'll have Novak to the inside as they'll dance for that position coming off of corner number 4. They'll continue to run it down the front straightaway and into corner number 1. Novak trying to take away position number 6. And oh, by the way, before this position change, Chaos Crew, second all the way back to that 6th place position.
And a very good run at Daytona. You talk about a new team, definitely a lot of talent in that NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series roster. And to get out of that one, you might think a little bit lucky to definitely not say no thanks to finding success at a race like that. But as we mentioned, this one can, if in a way, count as the unofficial season opener. You can put the nose down and get to the grind, and that team is looking to get another strong showing for the 2nd week in a row. Like to get to the top step of the podium, and Keegan Leahy a little bit now. 3 car lengths pulling out in front. It is nowhere near what the gaps that have been all night long to this point, but you look at the distance from Mullis on board in P2 up to your race leader, it is definitely a little bit out of his reach at the moment.
Just a little bit too far, but that said, I think one of the big things you have to be thinking about is managing the tires. Is 27 laps to go currently as they head off through the dog leg here on lap number 100 and 30. So I think this is one of those situations where even though you need to push and get to the end, it's not a long run. You're not coming down pit road again unless we get a optimistically timed caution. So for that fact, you want to sort of keep good care of the rubber underneath you, Evan. That means I think that you see some of these drivers somewhat underdriving the cars, while there's others who are being very, very dicey, being super aggressive. I'm a little surprised, though, Ryan Michaelu that has fallen off the likes of Logan Clampett after that fight. They were just having that big stack up, and Ryan had really closed up, but they've now been able to re-stretch that gap over that number 6 Ford.
And again, Luzin not only has that damage on the board, but also arriving with the broken collarbone, only has his left arm that he could use to steer that number 6 Ford around the racetrack. He's doing a good job. We look further back in the pack, a lot of side-by-side. Back near that number 1 division of Marcus Richardson, you see BC Kerwin's number 14 right there up top with the Napa colors on the board. Hard to miss that car as they go side-by-side into the corner with that one machine with the inside of positioning. This is going on for 13th on track.
And just behind them, you have Nick Shelton and Cody Bias going side by side. So a couple of close little battles there as the number 1 of Richardson tries to take it away from Kerwin. It's hard to watch one or two of these battles on the racetrack, but this is where this sense of urgency starts to kick in around that 15th place position. If you want to advance your spot, you really have to get up on the wheel now because this thing has a green flag look to it with less than 25 laps to go.
And as we close into the final 25 laps of this race, this final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue DEF, the official diesel exhaust fluid and DEF equipment of NASCAR. Fighting going on throughout the 32 cars that are scored on the race lead, but you have to wait to see if the shoe is going to drop in a battle for the race win, or if Keegan Leahy is going to be too fast, too long in this race, and who is going to be able to get up to a Mullis still second. Conti, Schoenberg, Ottinger through the top 5, and most of the action is outside of the top 10, side by side. How about the 10 car? Corey Vincent. Haven't talked a ton about him tonight. He is, though, up 17 spots in 17 and fighting with Cody Bias right now.
Still doing his hardest to work his way forward. He's got a very aggressive Ray Alfala, though, around him just inside that he's going to have to deal with. And, well, now it's going to be him fighting with Ray as they work themselves through 3 and 4. Ray on that recovery drive after that mistake on pit road. Still not entirely sure what happened with that one, but Ray's going to look to make quick work with this as there's 20 laps to go here at IMS Speedway. And in towards 1 and 2, they're going to come once again. Ray not quite able to get clear. There's drivers near him and very close as they come off corner number 2. I think Ray's just about going to get him as they head through the dog leg.
Tries to finish the job on the inside, and he will. That number 2 machine of Ray Alfala again trying to recover from, at one point, what looked like a race ready to move. First in out of pit road, and was able to leapfrog our current race leader, Keegan Leahy. We thought all was well, but there had to be some sort of an issue with Ray Alfala either fueling or tiring up that car. He came right back down pit road, dropped outside of the top 30, so he's picked up at least 13 positions since then, but it is going to be, I think, still far short of even getting himself back into the top 10 in a race that he had a legitimate shot at winning not all that long ago. Looking up towards the front now, side by side for second. Good news for Leahy. Michael Conti is the one who wants to mount the late race charge. He was very fast at the long end of the opening run of this race. Moved back up from 4th to 2nd. He's trying to do the same now, but Mullis with the crossover does not want to let it go without a fight.
Conti set up that pass, waited a couple laps and made that move, and now the 27 up the racetrack as the 5 of Michael Conti going to try to cross him over a little bit of a slide job in turn 3 for that number 27 car of Mullis. And now the 5 has to set it up once again down into corner number 1. They'll dance and bring Schoenberg along with them. Brian Schoenberg just behind. Mullis gets the run off the corner, and now Conti's going to have to dig deep if he wants it down into 3.
And for Conti, maybe the last stand for him. He knows that obviously if they can't get to the race lead, you want this to be a fight for second. But if he is having any hopes to get it up to Keegan Leahy now inside of 20 laps to go, he has to rip the Band-Aid off. He's got to get by Mullis every single passing lap. Since this battle has started, Keegan Leahy has gained at least 1/10 of a second. It is now at that seemingly insurmountable 1.7 seconds. So this is really playing into the hands of the 24 car.
I think the gap is so big, and with so few laps remaining, I don't think there's any way you can reel in that 24 car of Keegan Leahy. So I think now you sort of have to give up and just start fighting for whatever positions you think you can get. So if you're the likes of Conti, Schoenberg, Ottinger, Novak, maybe even Clampett, yeah, there's a lot of teammates in that list, a lot of the guys working together, but now it's going to become every man for themselves as they want as many championship points as they can get here coming out of ISM. Off towards 3 and 4 they come, and Conti has fallen off the back of Mullis just a little bit. Still very aggressive on the entry, getting all the way up to the top side and then diamonding off. We've seen all of those Chaos Crew cars running a similar line like that. Cross start finish, they're going to come once again, and still very tight with one another. Gap still hasn't come down. In fact, it's gotten bigger, and that to me starts putting the nails in the coffin for these guys. Caution flies, everything gets tossed up into the air.
Yellow flag is going to come out with 14 laps to go, and we are not done yet. Problems with David Rattler. And a iodine Ford Fusion. We'll take a second look at a RaceSpot TV replay. Very similar to the incident we saw earlier tonight with Timmy Hill. You'll see him just go a little bit too high off of the quarter here. You'll see the sparks fly. He gets into the outside wall right there, gets loose, comes back down. Does a very good job of snapping that car back down the hill. Only got tagged by Taylor Hurst. I don't know how. That was not 10 or 12 cars, but David Rattler is around, and we are going to have a 10 lap to go or less race start to decide this one from Phoenix. And oh, now what is the call going to be as pit road opens?
Remember what I said a little bit earlier? If we get about a 20-lap green flag run, it's going to make things interesting down on pit road. I think this is exactly what the doctor ordered. Leahy's looking down towards pit road. Does he decide to commit to pit road? I think he does, and I think he's going to bring some friends along with him. The question is, who stays out?
Like everybody so far through the top 10 coming down to pit road, trying to see who the first driver to stay out will be. It looks like everybody is pitting. First driver to stay out was way back in the pack. I think a majority, if not all, your race leaders are down pit road. That doesn't mean, though, that everybody is going to agree. We have said tires are important. Just how important are they? 4 tires? 2 tires? What is the call going to be? Everybody is good on fuel to the end, so that is not at all a concern. Keegan Leahy, though, first driver in as he heads down to pit stall number 2. He'll go 2 tires only as he takes the right sides, and he will win the race off of pit road in front of Nick Ottinger and Jimmy Mullis.
There's strategies aplenty here as we got a couple of drivers staying out. Brad Davies as well as Alex Bergeron, both drivers on the lead lap. They're going to be leading us to green here. So a lot of interesting things. Number of drivers going to be on 2. And I wonder if anyone may have taken 4 a little bit deeper in the back. Things are going to get a little bit crazy here with people on old tires, people on 2, potentially people on 4, all stacking up in the last 10 laps here at ISM.
And something to keep in mind, Nick Ottinger, you would have noticed, picked up a couple of spots on the race off of pit road. He did not successfully service that 05 Toyota when he came into the box. Again, I mentioned the pit stalls down towards the end of pit road are curved. You see him right here on the inside of 1 and 2. He is pit stall number 7. And you can see the 05 on the right-hand side of your screen there with the number on the pit box. He actually drove it too deep into the box, backed it up, and by that time realized he wasn't going to get it serviced. He just drove it off of pit road. That's how he ended up actually gaining spots on pit road, but he does not have any at all tire advantages. So the 05 machine is going to end up in 4th. Leahy is going to be the first tires in 3rd spot, and then the drivers who stay out with Davies and Bergeron 1st and 2nd position. So you got to get ready to get on the edge of your seats for this final restart before the pace car heads off for what could be the final time. We take a look again with our friends over at NASCAR.com/tickets to find out how you can get tickets to an upcoming NASCAR National Touring event near you.
Section PU 402, row 41.
Jimmy Johnson, the fastest gun in the West.
Section 104, row 4.
Blaney got it first win.
Section 25, row 3.
What a year for Bubba.
Section O, row 25.
Keselowski's going to win at Talladega.
Section 156, row 4.
Kurt Busch to the lead on the backstretch.
Section 233, row 1.
Martin Truex Jr. wins.
You get a seat, but we doubt you'll ever use it. Grab your seats at NASCAR.com/tickets today.
You've got the whole seat, but you're gonna only need the edge. 10 laps to go here tonight for the ISM Raceway as the pace car gets set to head down and in. It is Brad Davies and Alex Bergeron who stay out and go to the race lead. Keegan Leahy, best car all night inside of row 2 and third. With the 2 fresh tires on the right side only. A lot of beating and banging as Brad Davies does not want to go. And they finally push the front row up to speed as we go back racing with 10 laps to go. Look for the 24 car on the speed. And there he goes, the bump and run. He'll rocket to the race lead. And there they go behind as the 0-2 of Bergeron in front of the field.
Bergeron turned in front of the field. Schoenberg involved in it. A lot of good cars going to get twirled around on the back straightaway. That will draw the caution flag one more time. But man, Keegan Leahy turned that thing down low and it stuck. As we look at a replay to see what brought it out, you're going to see Bergeron on those old tires, Evan, get crossed up in front of the field, and everybody's going to try to avoid the spinning 0-2 car.
I think only 4 cars actually picked up damage in all of this, but it started, Randy, in 4, the 13 and the 0-2. Again, we talked about being the control car. They don't have to go until actually the exit of the restart box when the green flag actually comes out, and that's exactly what they did. Hoping to maybe get a couple of yellows to lift themselves home, and the 24 was just beating the back bumper off of the 13 and finally got by him. And then it was Bergeron, who by really no fault of his own was just trying to get out of the way of the 13 Machida Davies, who slid high in front of him. He got tagged, and that is why 4-5 wide on the 10 lap to go restart doesn't work.
I really have no idea how he didn't lose half of the field there, because like you said, Brad Davies, he kept it to the very last moment to get on that throttle pedal, and then he got a bunch of wheel spin when he finally did, and that just stacked up the field. A bunch of people being aggressive, trying to time the restart in the mid-pack, and that just caused a huge accordion effect. They were fanning out 3 wide practically before they ever really got down towards turn 1, and then by the time they got there, when I saw cars were starting to go around, I was imagining 10, 15, maybe even 20 cars finding their way to the inside or outside wall with a bunch of damage. The fact that we only end up with less than a half a dozen, maybe a half a dozen at most, that is nothing short of a miracle in my opinion.
There was a lot of smoke. There were a lot of cars spread out, but again, just because of how wide this racetrack is on that entire back section with the dogleg and such, you can even see all that space on the apron as we come into turn 4. There was so much space for cars to get out of the way. Very different than as you see as we go on board with Clampett on the front straightaway, that pit road wall right there. Any kind of wreck like that on the front straightaway will completely log jam the racetrack, but on the back, enough space for drivers to avoid it. And really, with the exception of maybe the 3 or 4 cars that were right there, nowhere near as bad as probably it looked, nor that it was. And that'll take another 4 laps out of this race, probably bring us up to what would be the final restart on the night. As always, if we get inside of 4 laps to go or less, Tim, that is the point to no return. A yellow flag inside of 4 to go would end this race under yellow flag conditions, so we'll have to see when the lights go out on top of the pace car so we know if it will be for sure the final restart.
So we could be heading towards one final restart in this one, so you know it's going to be elbows up for these drivers to try to get everything that they can. They're going to try to get everything that they can here on this restart, whether it is the last one or not. But when you look at that last wreck, obviously Brian Schoenberg and Zach Novak stand out as 2 drivers that were involved in that one and that were hanging around the top 5 for most of this race, and they're going to have to try to get up on the wheel and salvage what they can in these closing laps. Michael Conti, right now in position number 11, he's going to have to get up on the wheel. We documented Ray Alfala's ups and downs before. He's going to restart at 8th. Nick Ottinger just outside the top 5 and 6. But how about Ryan Luza in 4th? Derek Bordeaux in position number 5. We talked about Derek making up some spots earlier. You still have Brad Davies that did not come down pit road. And then Jimmy Mullis, he was quick on one of those last restarts, keeping Keegan Leahy honest. If he gets there, does he maybe try to use the bumper to try to get by and try to make some room?
The 27's been doing his best on a few of these restarts to figure out the trick that the 24's been pulling to be so good on the restarts. And you also have to give a tip of the cap to Keegan Leahy because, Randy, he had been going early, he's been going late in the box, he's been doing a very good job of keeping the drivers around him on edge, not allowing them to catch on to what he's been doing. There's been a couple of instances where Jimmy Mullis had thought that Keegan Leahy was going to go early like he was doing earlier on in this race. Did not happen. He had the checkup to make sure he wasn't in front of the 24 coming to the line, and that's how Mullis was able to pull his gap. All it takes, though, is to get lucky or to make the right call once, and you're side by side for the race lead. At that point, anything can happen. But this restart is going to come with 152 laps down, 4 laps to go, and will be the final restart of the night.
Yeah, that's the big thing if you're Keegan Lee, the fact that it only takes one from Jimmy Mullis. He just needs to time this one restart of the entire race. None of the other ones matter. And it's not even just him. If the 13 of Brad Davies gets the jump, if Ryan Michael Luza gets a jump, any one of those three drivers starting around that 24 car, if they time this restart, they could be someone to worry about if you're Keegan Lee. Also have to keep an eye on Michael Connie. Maybe not in it for the race win. The fact that he's back there on 4 tires, how many spots can he pick up if we stay green?
We're happy that you've been with us all night long, and the payoff about to come from ISM Raceway. Pace car down for the final time. Keegan Leahy, so good for so long. Can he nail it when it matters the most? Green flag back in the air. 4 laps to go. Mullis safely in second. Luza quickly jumps up to third as the top 3 go single file to turn 2.
They quickly work around Brad Davies, Ottinger out of line, and they go 3 wide at a corner number 2 in the middle of the pack. Keep your eye on Jimmy Mullis as he tries to battle. Caution is out.
There were 4 wide in the back. It was not going to work, and it is Zach Novak with all the smoke coming out of the back of his number 15 machine, who fell victim to the 28 of Casey Tucker. It was Tucker's entry who got sideways. That's the black and move forward on the inside of your screen on the distance, and you will see going into the corner, he's going to get a little bit of assistance by that apron, just trying to be too aggressive, and he'll snap up right there in front of Novak. I don't think he was going to hang on to it either way, but that lap traffic coming through, Novak had absolutely nowhere to go as you go on board with Tucker. And again, you can cheat that apron a little bit on the dog leg for sure. You can creep a little bit down there and in 3 to 4 because the banking is a lot less, but 1 and 2 substantially more banked than anywhere else on this racetrack. That transition was too much for the 28 of Casey Tucker to handle, and he goes around and will bring out the final yellow.
Yeah, it's just such a difficult part of the racetrack to run when you clip that apron. I don't think there's any car on the iRacing service where if you clip that apron, it's gonna survive. And all these NASCAR vehicles are exactly the same way. You clip it, you're getting loose, and well, you either have to lock it down and just try not to spin in front of the field, or really prepare yourself to overcorrect up the road, and that's exactly what we saw there. But regardless, it's going to make the 24 car Keegan Lee one very happy camper, because he wasn't having to stress about that last restart, having Jimmy Mullis hounding down his neck the entire run, and now he's able to just sit there and cruise his way around to a victory here at IMS.
For Leahy, he's just going to have to be able to make it home at this point. Again, this race is not going to restart. He will come around this time to collect the white flag and just has to get there to make it to the end of this race. Mullis would get a second spot. Luza, Bordeaux, Duval to finish through the top 5. And it's probably going to be the longest, about 1:10 lap that Keegan Leahy's going to ever do in his NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series career. With the 24 car, 1 more to go.
Yeah, final lap of this one is Keegan Leahy will try to work around here. We talked those trends a little bit earlier on. Keegan Leahy, second driver to lead over 100 laps here at ISM, and looks like he's going to close it out and go to victory lane and collect his first ever NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series victory. 3rd Canadian to do so, and I believe the 2nd from the little province of Nova Scotia. So as long as he can make it back the next half lap or so, he'll go to victory lane as Jimmy Mullis and Ryan Luza look on behind. And look who squeezed into the top 5. How about Dylan Duval in the 42?
Dylan Duval, somebody who remembers just a year ago at Indianapolis, got his first career win. Fellow countryman and Keegan Leahy is going to do the same thing here tonight. For the ISM Raceway, it will not be in a photo finish, but the 24 car will take them as they come, and in a very divisive and strong run for the 24. No resiliency for everybody else, and he shuts the door on him. Keegan Leahy, first career win in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. So good all night. We kept waiting for somebody to step up to the plate, and this was Leahy's night. He would not be denied, and a very well-deserved first career trip to victory lane for him at sim racing's top level.
What a run it was for him. Absolutely dominant all day, like you just said, Evan. We saw Michael Connie be aggressive really in the first 15 to 20 laps, but outside of that, it was all Keegan Lee, the entirety basically of this event, and a well-deserved win from that number 24.
Can't say anything about, obviously, the drivers in this series, Tim, who raced for years on years, and to finally break through and get your first career win under any circumstances has to feel good, but Keegan Leahy showed the field up tonight the way he did it.
We talked off the top of the show about those Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series young guns lighting it up at the top of our sport. Here's another one coming up through the ranks of sim racing and iRacing and making a mark, and making a big mark here this evening at ISM Raceway. He'll light it up. First career victory in this series, and by the way he's run, I don't think this is the last time he'll be able to light it up and do these burnouts.
That's his Feedall Racing Team Virtual Racing School Chevrolet, burning it down on the front straightaway. The driver out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, celebrating his first career win. It was all Keegan Leahy on it tonight from ISM Raceway, as noted, leading over 100 laps. And when we like talking about those trends, the 8th race here in the Phoenix Desert has come to gone, and this is our 8th different winner at this mile racetrack. We'll get some post-race reaction from him as he continues to celebrate on the front straightaway. We'll get to that in a moment. First, as always, we look top to bottom at tonight's RaceSpot TV full race results. Keegan Leahy started up front, got to the race lead at lap 8, and did not blink. He gets the win tonight in the Phoenix 156. Jimmy Mullis with a great result coming home in second. And how about Ryan Michaelusa? 38th to 3rd, goes up 35 spots to get on the podium tonight. Derek Bordeaux just behind him at 4th. Dylan Duvall gets the top 5 out of it. We'll be trackside with all of those drivers momentarily. P6 tonight for Ray Alfala. It's exactly where he started, but that is far from the tail of the tape. And to recover from a mistake on a pit road with 45 laps to go, great run for him to get back inside of the top 10. Brad Davies has a fantastic performance. He climbs all the way to 7th. Bolster Michael Conti gets the top 10 out of it with a P8. Casey Kerwin ends in 9th, and Logan Clampett rounds out the top 10 exactly where he started in that 10th spot.
Marcus Richardson going to come home in position number 11. Matt Busa in 12th after running up front for most of this race. Bobby Zielinski in 13th. There is another top 5 runner for most of the night. Nick Ottinger comes home in 14th with Brandon Pipgrass in position 15. Cody Bias in 16th. Chris Shearburn in 17th. 18th belongs to Taylor Hurst. Jarl Tien, another driver that ran up front early, going to finish in 19th. And Blake Reynolds comes home with the top 20.
Another driver who's at the pointy end of the field most of the night, Brian Schoenberg, ends up 21st. Adam Gilliland, 22nd. Jake Sturgis, 23rd. Philip Diaz, 24th. Dave Rattler, 25th. Andrew Fayash, 26th. Corey Vincent, 27th. Timmy Hill, 28th. Joe Letterello, 29th. And Alex Bergeron, he rounds out your top 30.
Only 2 more cars finish this one on the lead lap. That's 31st position to Nicholas Shelton and 32nd to Casey Tucker. Continuing on through 1 lap down, Ryan Lowe is 33rd spot. 34th tonight for Zach Novak. The rest of these cars finish behind the wall. 35th for Chris Overland, P36 for Christian Challener. 37th is Nolan Scott. Michael Gastis, 38th. And Colton Davis rounds out the field tonight at the back in 39th position. That's a look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back to the ISM Raceway, we'll chat with your first-time winner, Keegan Leahy, along with the rest of your top finishers here tonight, and preview round number 3 in 2 weeks' time for the Auto Club Speedway. You're watching RaceSpot TV's continuing coverage of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series on iRacing Live, the post-race show from Phoenix when we come back.
Oh, that was late.
Hey guys! This week, the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah.
The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit NASCAR.com/fantasy and build your team today.
And welcome back live to the virtual ISM Raceway here in Avondale, Arizona, formerly known as the Phoenix International Raceway. 8th time this racetrack has made an appearance on the calendar for the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, and it is the 8th different time a different driver has parked it in victory lane. Happy that you're still with us on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth upstairs with Hugo Louise downstairs as we bring you into our post-race coverage. A fantastic run tonight, Tim, by Keegan Leahy on route to his first career win as he'll await with us down trackside a dominant performance in the way he did it tonight.
Yeah, nothing short of dominant when you look at the results. You have Keegan Leahy leading laps. You had Michael Conti earlier leading some laps in this one. Obviously, Conti started on the pole, and then Ray Alfala led a couple laps, but Keegan led the majority of them, comes home as a winner, and sets a statement. We talked off the top of the show. This is really where the season starts. Yes, Daytona did start off the season, but this is where everybody gets down to business. I think Keegan Leahy sent a very strong statement tonight.
But it never hurts as well that he got out of Daytona with a top 5 result. But I think the thing he would like to talk about is the fact that how he is a winner in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. We're trackside with the driver of the number 24 machine, Keegan Leahy. Keegan, congratulations on the win. We will get to the nitty-gritty and talk race details in a moment, but you finally get a win at the top level of oval sim racing. Tell us how that feels.
Man, it's awesome. It's the second race this year, and I managed to win it. Like, that is absolutely amazing. I won a race in pro. That felt amazing too, but like, look at the names that I'm racing against. I had to beat Ryan Luza, Ray Alfala, Conti was behind me, Jimmy Mullis was flying that race. There's so many people that I just consider better than me, honestly, and I somehow managed to outdrive them or out-set up them or something today, and it's awesome. It's such a great validation.
Tell us about how it went down between the green and the checkered flag. Obviously, you guys knew you had a fast race car. You started up front in second. Took you all but 8 laps to get to the race lead, and you really never looked back. Had a scare there when it looked like Ray was able to leapfrog you onto pit road. He had some sort of an issue, dropped back down, and when you were out in front, those guys were able to stick with you for maybe 10, 15 laps at tops, but it always seemed like you'd find yourself 2 seconds in front, and even with those late race restarts, nobody was able to pull anything out of the hat and get you. You guys were just too good.
Yeah, somehow I found a line that worked really well for me and my car. I hadn't run it all week in practicing or anything. It seemed to work in this race for whatever reason. That was what allowed me to pull ahead from everyone. I know Conti definitely had a short run plus long run setup. I had him completely covered in the middle of the run, and that's why I was able to get by him and then pull him a bit. But I know if somehow the race went green the whole distance, he would probably be at least as quick or maybe even faster than me. Yeah, that Ray thing, I have no idea what happened. I'll have to ask him later, but I thought the race was over in that situation. And then something you guys probably didn't pick up was the last longest run we had, which started around with 80 to go, I think. We had like a 40 or 50 lap run. I didn't have the fuel to make it to the end, and I know a lot of people did. I was going to finish 20th if it went another probably 10 or 15 laps under green. I really needed that caution, and it saved me.
I think it's a fair trade-off for as many times as I'm sure you'll look back on a race and see a yellow flag that takes one away from you. I don't think it hurts to have one assist every once and again. And you talk about the drivers that you had to go up against tonight. The names in this series that people will most recognize were very strong tonight, which I find interesting because a big point we made coming into this race was we've seen 7 different races here and 7 different winners. You become the 8th different winner. That being said, the cars we expected to be fast every week were fast. Were you expecting to come into this race tonight and compete for a win, or was it simply, you got to the racetrack and you all of a sudden you find yourself with a lot of speed and you roll with it? What was the expectation versus what you actually got out of it?
Well, we do a lot of practice races coming up to this week, and the NASCAR iRacing series. Top split is usually a really good approximation to how the peak races is going to go. So I did a few races in that, and although I wasn't showing my whole hand during those races, I kind of felt like I had the speed to compete against people until there was a few people, namely Conti and LDR especially, showed that they definitely had a lot of pace. Now, I knew I was at least close to them, maybe a little faster, but it wasn't really a for sure thing. And yeah, you pretty much just roll into these races and hope your car drives as you expect it to.
You survive through Daytona International Speedway with the top 5. You get a win here tonight for the ISM Raceway. That's not bad for 2 weeks into the 2018 campaign. I know obviously you guys want to be able to enjoy this one, and because we race every other week, you'll have plenty of time to celebrate it. But how do you keep this momentum rolling 2 weeks' time as we head to Fontana?
Yeah, I have a really good handle on this build. I'm loving it. I love how the car drives. Even though the setups aren't as realistic as we'd want them to be right now, I really like building them. I enjoy finding what works. Auto Club's a really unique track, just like here ISM Speedway. So I thrive in those unique tracks where you have to have a unique solution for the setup and a unique way of driving sometimes, as in this case. And yeah, I think I'll be strong next week again.
We're appreciative of your time, Keegan. We'll let you take off and celebrate here in a moment, but I know there's a lot of people behind the scenes, sponsors and the shout-outs, all of those people who get you to this level and to your first career win.
Well, first of all, I really got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, and iRacing for putting on the series. I think it's amazing that we can have a NASCAR eSport at this level and with this level of competition. The sponsor on my car there, I'm sure you have it up on stream, is VRS, Virtual Racing School. And I've had them on board for the last few weeks. I had them on for the last couple races of pro. I'm doing data packs and making setups for the C and the B car, the truck and the Xfinity car. And I'm really happy with how these setups are going. I think they're every bit as strong as the NPAS setups that I'm making. And I really believe that. And yeah, I'm just really happy to have them on board. And then thank you for my teammates, especially Chris Shearburn for all the help this week. He put a ton of work in. And then Ryan with his broken arm did what he could. And Derek Bordeaux put some laps in, and he's helping me get this car faster too. So thanks to them.
They had great runs, and we'll be chatting with them in a moment. But Keegan, thanks for sticking around and chatting with us. From all of us here at RaceSpot, congratulations on the win. Congrats on a really good start to you guys and the team for a very hot out of the gates, if you will, kickoff to 2018. I know there's a long way to go, but get out of here, enjoy this one, and we'll catch you again in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for sticking around.
Thank you so much.
The race winner tonight from ISM Raceway, his first career win in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Keegan Leahy is your race winner tonight in the Phoenix 156. There were a couple of drivers who gave him a run for his money. One of them was Jimmy Mullis, a little bit shy when it was all said and done, but it's a P2 for the driver of the 27, and Tim Terry is trackside with him.
Yeah, Jimmy Mullis comes home in position number 2, and Jimmy, one of the drivers that really looked like something for Keegan, especially on the short run.
Yeah, I honestly thought I had something for him on the longer run more than anything. He was killer on the short run, and in the mid run is where he really had me. But I really got to thank Taylor Hurst and Matt Bontempi for all the hard work. I mean, we prepared an insane race car, and this thing, it was on rails. Drove from 15th to 5th in the first run, and then just hung around the top 5. I'm ecstatic. I cannot believe this happened. It's really nice to start the season off on a good note, though. Daytona didn't go that well, but with that being a wild card, I wasn't really too worried about it. So I'm just really, really pleased with this run.
Keegan said in his interview he was a little short on fuel. If this race would have went an extra 10 laps or so on that run that started with about 80 laps to go, he probably would have ran out of fuel. How close were you on fuel?
Oh, I was good all the way. We filled up for the last 80 laps because we were expecting to try and go to the end, hoping it would go green. So knowing that he was short on fuel, it hurts because I feel like if it would have stayed green, I might have had a shot at winning the thing because I felt like we had one of the best long-run cars. I know Conti was pretty strong as well, but it would have definitely been interesting there at the end if it would have went green.
And the Chaos crew did really well tonight. At one point from position 2 all the way back to position 6, you guys had it stacked. It's got to give you a little bit of momentum heading into that Auto Club Speedway in 2 weeks' time.
Absolutely, and congrats to those guys. For Conti finishing 8th, and it looks like Marcus ended up 11th, but I know there were some issues there at the end. So, but everyone was running really well with the Chaos crew as well. So, hats off to those guys. They all were pretty quick as well. So I don't really know what to say to you, Tim. I'm just really excited right now, man.
You got Racing Virginia in the quarter panels. Who else helps you get to the track each week?
RacingVirginia.com, Kicker Audio, everyone with Richmond Raceway, Mike Waddell, all of my lockdown racing teammates. Like I said, huge thanks to them guys. They work so hard, and to have it pay off like this is really nice.
There you go, guys. Jimmy Mullis coming home in position number 2 in a very strong run for this 27 team. Watch him in 2 weeks when we go to the Auto Club Speedway. Believe Randy has caught up with a driver who really had to dig deep here this evening. Ryan Luza coming from deep in the field all the way to 3rd.
Yeah, I am stood trackside with the man who finished with one hand tonight. Well, he doesn't only have one hand, but he can only use one of them. First thing, Ryan, how's the collarbone? And, well, I think a lot of the fans want to know, how did you break it?
I was snowboarding. We went on vacation, Taos, and snowboard caught the edge of the snow, and I landed square on my shoulder. So that was not great, but turned out to have a pretty good finish here. All I could hope for, actually.
So for the young ones tuning in, that's a good sign. Go out, have some fun, enjoy yourself, and you'll finish top 3 in a world championship level event here on the iRacing service. But Ryan, how was it driving with only one arm all evening the way it was? It was a very, very crowded racetrack. Not a lot of places just to sort of get into a rhythm and keep calm. And, well, you moving up the field the way you did, plus 35 spots on the night. You were a busy man working that left arm. How was it trying to adapt to that?
It was actually really difficult. I mean, I didn't get back from vacation until like 2 days ago, and I couldn't really test because of it. And the pain's finally getting, better now. And I think, like, as of all the laps with my left arm, my left shoulder hurts a lot worse than my right one right now. So that's at least a good thing. I'd take it. But I don't know. The plan was just to safe, do all I could do, and get spot after spot. I was on a really good lap in qualifying, and I just spun out in turn 3. So that put me in the back, and we made the right call on just about every pit stop and slowly worked our way up. I don't know. Top 3 is amazing. I'll take it every day, even with 2 arms.
Yeah, moving down to Southern California as you guys head to Fontana next week. Confident there?
I think so. It's just this new build is a lot different for me. I haven't had the chance laps and really get and like I'm really limited on testing right now because there's only so many laps I can do. My left arm is actually killing me, so tensed up. I don't know, we're gonna do what we can do. Huge thanks to Keegan for working on the set as much as he did, because I wasn't able to do it this week, so hopefully I could be a little bit more of a help and be a little bit more of a contender going to Cali.
Ryan, congratulations on the podium tonight. Who's on that number 6 car that gets it done for you?
Huge thanks to Fast Track Sims for coming back on board this year. Any sim racing equipment you need, monitor stands, motion rigs, anything like that, they have everything. Everybody at Phenom Racing Team, especially thanks to Keegan, like I said, Chris Shearburn too, did a lot of laps testing, and then Derek Bordeaux and myself. And thanks to all you guys for the broadcast. Y'all do an amazing job.
Well, your 3rd place finisher of Ryan Luza. Going to be interesting to see how he adapts over the time as that collarbone begins to heal. Doesn't look to be losing too much speed considering his performance tonight. But Mr. Tim Terry, he is caught trackside with the 4th place runner. That's the 04 of Derek Bordeaux.
Derek Bordeaux coming to the front of the field, finishing in position number 4. But Derek, let's talk about the run, because it seemed like as the run went on, you crept closer to the top 10, then crept closer to the top 5, coming home in 4th. The thing just looked consistent all day long.
Yeah, it was. We had a pretty good fresh head forward tonight. Thanks to Keegan Leahy for that one. Well, like you said, we started out in the 17th place, and we slowly made our way into the top 10 with a strategy call that when the top 12 stayed out, we pitted, took 4, and we made some fast passes, and we settled in for, I don't know, it was like 7th or 8th, and after that we just rode around there, lost a couple spots, and then missed the big wreck on I think it was 15 ago, around there or so, and we gained a whole lot of position because of that wreck. It was right in front of us. And then we just had to survive the last few restarts, and we ended up with a solid 4th place.
And you mentioned those final couple of restarts. You had a couple of drivers stay out with the second to last restart on the night. How hectic was that from the driver's seat?
It was hectic. You always know that when like 2 people stay out, and then after that you have I don't know what, like 13 on 2, and then after that you have everybody else on 4. It's something is just gonna happen. You know it, so you're preparing yourself, and you're just trying to find the hole like on a restart. So if there's a wreck happening, and it happened, so I was already visualized where I needed to go, and I went, and thankfully the car that spun didn't split up, or I would have hit him. But yeah, those are always hectic from the driver's seat.
Your team had a pretty good night here this evening. It really has to set up well going forward in this season. Obviously, Daytona is what it is, but heading forward now into Auto Club and the rest of the season, you guys have to feel happy with the program that's underneath you.
Yeah, I'm really happy that I mean, we brought in Keegan and Chris from Simworks, or not, well, Simwork broke off, and we renamed Phenom and brought like Keegan, which is pretty much one of the best setup builders, and it's just providing us with some really good cars. And like I said, like we finished three of us finished in the top 5. Fortunately, Chris had some bad luck, but he probably would have been there in the top 10. But yeah, I feel really confident. All of our guys are really good. I mean, Ryan just finished 3rd with a broken collarbone. So, and Keegan, like he's pretty good. So, really looking forward to this season. Hopefully, we can get some more top 5, top 10s.
Who else is on this Ford that helps you get to the racetrack every week?
Thanks to, like I said, Keegan and everybody at Phenom Racing Team for this awesome setup. Fresh at Ford for sponsoring me this season. Infinite Creative Solutions, or Dylan Duvall, for this awesome paint scheme. You guys and everybody watching for just broadcasting it. They're really fun to watch.
And that's Derek Bordeaux coming home in position number 4 here this evening. And I believe Randy has caught up with Dylan Duvall, who finished in position number 5. Randy, 3 Canadians in the top 5 here this evening.
Always nice to see, even in what is, I think most would say, is mostly United States-based series, to see the international drivers coming in. And Dylan, it was an interesting night for you in that 42 car. We talked about you last year being the first Canadian to get a win in this, or excuse me, not the first Canadian, but the second Canadian get a win. How did it feel to see Keegan bring that old Maple Leaf another victory?
Yeah, it was really cool to see Keegan get his first win. He definitely had the best car tonight, so it's always nice, regardless if he's Canadian or not, to see the best car take home the win, for sure.
Now, a number of drivers that we've talked to, they've mentioned about the new build that just came out last week, some things that have changed on the cars. Can you go a little bit more in-depth with the fans? What all's changed from the last build? What all are you guys having to do to find the speed these days?
Well, to be honest, I don't know what everyone else is doing to find the speed, but this race, we were definitely on the struggle bus with the 42 and most of my teammates. We don't really know what direction to go with this build at the moment, but hopefully we can figure it out before too long, because we were realistically a 15th place car tonight, something like that, and that's not good enough for our standards. We want to be up there contending for wins, and I know we brought it home 5th tonight, but that wasn't by having that speed. We made some good calls and had some things go our way, so it's really important for us to try to figure out how we're behind and where we need to find that speed at.
Fontana, in a couple weeks, you going to like the bottom, or are you going to try to run the Larson line up top?
I don't know about the Larson line, but that track should be fun. We definitely should be moving around a lot. I think you're going to see more people running the bottom. The leaders will probably be right on the bottom, and then 3rd to like 10th will be up a little bit, and then everyone else will just be a free-for-all. That's usually around how it plays out. The bottom at most of these tracks usually ends up being the faster line for most of the race.
Congrats, Dylan, on a 5th place finish tonight at ISM. Before we let you go, who would you like to give a thanks to for getting it done on that number 42 car?
I just got to thank Simcraft, DIYsim.com, Infinite Creative Solutions, Tim's Corner Motorsports, the team, Aftermath Motorsports, and Ed Birch for spotting. And special thanks to Cody and Bolton for all the work they put into these things every week. We weren't the best this week, but normally we have winning cars, and looking forward to the rest of the season with them.
Well, Evan, that's a very happy 5th place finisher of the 42 at Dylan Duvall.
Happily so. A lot of drivers were not able to get to the end of this one tonight for the ISM Raceway. Big thanks to our top 5 finishers, Keegan Leahy, Jimmy Mullis, Ryan Michaelouz, Derek Bordeaux, and Dylan Duvall, for giving us an opportunity to chat with them and put this one behind us for what was a very exciting race. No doubt, Randy, we had a little bit of everything. I think overall, though, when you expect to come to a racetrack like this, you almost brace yourself for a lot of rough and tough and a lot of restarts. And we had a scare late for Leahy. He had to deal with a late race restart, but plenty of great racing, a lot of green flag action tonight as well. And what I thought was a very fun race, an 8th different winner and 8 different trips here to ISM. So I'm already looking forward to next year's.
Yeah, I mean, this racetrack has been one of the best for this championship for the 8 years that it's been running. So super awesome to see that tradition of new drivers coming through, picking up wins carry over. And I think we're going to have a very interesting race at Fontana at the big 2-mile track, kind of the first of the big tracks that we're going to go to. Of course, we're around Daytona, but that's a very, very different beast from anything else. And I'm super excited to see what happens at Auto Club.
You want to talk about a difference in tracks, Tim? We started with the 2.5-miler in Daytona. We came down to a mile here at Phoenix, and then we have a 2-mile D-shaped oval in Fontana and a 1.5-miler in Las Vegas coming up for the next 2 weeks. But it is the sister track to Michigan in 2 weeks' time. At the Auto Club Speedway is where we are headed next, and I'm expecting definitely a completely different kind of race there from what we saw tonight.
We did see a lot of twists and turns in this one, though, Evan. When you look at the top 2, yeah, Keegan Leahy and Jimmy Mullis were up in front and consistently up front throughout the race. But you had a guy like Brian Schoenberg who ran up front for most of the race. Zach Novak, same story, ran up front within the top 10, top 5, and they get finishes outside the top 20 that they're probably not going to desire and probably going to fuel the fire a little bit heading into Auto Club. You had a guy like Michael Conti rebound. You had a guy like Dylan Duvall and Ray Alfala come back. Ray Alfala led late in the race and had to go to the rear of the field to rebound for 6th place. So there's a lot of stories and a lot of twists and turns that really came into this one, but obviously Keegan Leahy dominated. We said the season really starts tonight at Phoenix at ISM Raceway compared to Daytona International Speedway, where we had the wild card. See what happens in 2 weeks when we go to Auto Club, because if the season started here tonight, it's going to ramp up intensity even more in 2 weeks' time.
And already having the ability to talk about stories and such that are developing, there is still a long way to go before we start talking about racing for a championship later this year. That being said, race number 2 of 18 on the season falls into our rear view mirror. As always, there's a ton of people behind the scenes, so we want to say thank you to make all of this possible. East Venaballo for providing the camera angles, of course, Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey, their team with the broadcast CG, graphics by Andy Werner, Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, Drew Adams, and everybody else behind the scenes at RaceSpot TV, and for your broadcast team tonight. For Randy Chetnett, Tim Terry, and myself, Evan Pusoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Keegan Leahy on his first win at Sim Racing's top level. Next Tuesday, we are off as usual, but the series will return in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, March the 27th, as we go racing once more for the Auto Club Speedway. That race and every race of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Until next time, we say goodnight from Phoenix, Arizona.